I think Garry Kasparov has turned the tables. And what a tactical motive. He takes on e5 to sacrifice the exchange.
Oh,
so
and HG3.
Exactly. He gives up the exchange to now play h takes g3. Will he do it with the rook down? Will he take on g3 and then just push the g pawn and say, I don't care that you have just captured my rook, I'm gonna push the g pawn and claim victory.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, Garry Kasparov is back.
And we're live, everybody, with coverage of the Champions Showdown 9LX, Chess 960, whatever you want to call it. I'm Levi Rosman. Anna, how are you?
I'm doing great, Levi. I'm so hyped about the Fischer Random. Let's also call it on its third name. As you said, Chess 9LX or Chess 960 or Fischer Random. We are here to discover more about the chess variant that was created by former world champion Bobby Fischer. And among the participants are, of course, Hikaru Nakamura. We are here on Hikaru's channel for a reason, but also another former world champion. If we are already talking about Fischer, Garry Kasparov is back at the board.
Yes, he is. Garry Kasparov, Garry Kimovic, as Hikaru always calls him when streaming. Arguably one of the greatest. We have the really cool thing about this tournament, besides the fact that Hikaru is participating, obviously. Slight bias to begin with. Let's just get that out of the way as fast as possible. Is the fact Garry Kasparov and Magnus Carlsen will play. Anna, it's their first official game kind of ever, right? Like in a tournament.
First official game since 2004. So yeah, ever since that first game between Magnus and Garry, when Magnus was still 13 years old and he played against Kasparov in Iceland. Magnus was ranked number 700 in the world, and Garry obviously was number 1. That was their first and last official game back in 2004. Yes, long time.
That is crazy. I mean, as far as we're concerned, the first time they ever play where Magnus is Magnus, for lack of a better way of phrasing it. But Garry Kasparov has. What do you think? If you're a complete beginner to the game or a complete newbie to the game, if you think chess, what do you think? Like, who do you think of? Who's the one person you think of, regardless of where you are in the world, or do you think it depends?
I think Garry Kasparov should pop into most people's minds instantly, outside and inside the chess world. He's just such a legend, as you said, arguably the greatest of all time. And he still has so much passion for chess. He may not be competing anymore actively, but he was the brain behind the Grand Chess Tour. He's promoting so many chess events and chess projects that I think he will never fully retire from chess in that sense.
Yes, I will say that for Garry's what I know about Garry in the past few years is chess is a game of unlimited beauty, you know, because his masterclass is all over my YouTube channel advertisement.
His masterclass is great, by the way. I did check it out. I checked parts of it. I do have a masterclass pass, so I can pop in and out of all the courses. I got it as a present from one of my fans. Like, isn't that a cool gift? So you can learn.
I mean, okay, if we're starting the flex competition, my chat offered me a boat if I didn't curse for a month. So.
Oh my, Levi, yeah. The stakes are high.
It's not gonna happen. Let's just get that out of the way right quick. I see we have a poll. Kasparov, Fischer, Carlson, and XQC. Oh, come on.
I think that's a great list. That's a great list. I would have said the exact same players for that poll. So shout out to the poll makers, the poll creators here, and make sure that you click on one of your choices for the poll.
Did XQC just get more percentage than the 3 others combined? Is that...
He did.
Is that what just happened there?
We are on Twitch after all. We are on Twitch after all.
Seriously.
The wooden shield, too strong.
Okay, that is... Well, it is unbreakable for a reason. I mean, not sure what we can do about that, but definitely... well, it's called that way for a reason, and it's unbreakable for a reason.
I'm so interested in how the event will start, by the way, speaking of the wooden shield, how much that power and the general chess knowledge of the players will help in Fischer Random. I think we should just, in case, remind our viewers that Fischer Random is a chess variant that doesn't start with the same starting position. So it means that the pawns are on the same rank where they normally would be, but every other piece usually is shuffled. There are 960 different possible starting positions, including the traditional one. That's one among the 960. But for Fischer random tournaments, usually that option is taken out so that no one has to even play traditional chess.
Oh wow! Okay, amazing. That's actually something that I did not know. I learned that just now. So go me. You see how prepared I am for this. So yeah, I mean, we see people asking about Chess 960. The TLDR is basically it is a type of chess where opening theory does not matter. And as far as the rules of this tournament go, the players only find out the starting position like right before the round, 15-20 minutes prior. I think the official rule I'm going to pull up in a second. So I was trying to fill dead air there by just talking about life and Kasparov and the masterclass while trying to pull up some of the slides. So I apologize, I didn't do my homework.
No, you did great. You did great, Levi. From what I see on the schedule, what was on the website is that they have about 3 minutes between the drawing of the position and the start of the round.
Oh, so it's like a wow. Oh, that's crazy. Okay, so I was just thinking about the Fischer Random World Championship, which happened last year.
Yeah.
Which chess.com, I think the official rule was 15 minutes. I think that's where it was. Wow, 3 minutes is that's crazy. No wonder Garry's only playing this segment. So that's awesome. Yeah, Garry actually himself tweeted. If you don't follow Kasparov63 on Twitter, you should. That's something that you should consider doing potentially. But he tweeted that opening knowledge is not something that he has to bring to this event, and so he's happy to participate because he doesn't have to worry about getting out prepared.
Yeah, no, that's a huge difference between traditional chess and Fischer Random. So we're gonna get to see way more creativity when it comes to even the opening stage of the games. There are few move preparations that are possible to make for certain cases. I was present at the Nakamura Carlsen unofficial Fischer Random World Championship 2 years ago, and there they had a bit more time so their teams could work on the opening preparation. But even those preparations were one or two move long in depth. So imagine it's like knowing e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and then go. Play.
Chat, this is just like you guys play chess. This tournament could not be more relatable. Honestly, it's exactly how chess, like that is the purest form of the game. Taking the center is important. Developing your pieces is important, and then it's strategy and tactics in its purest form. No wonder Bobby Fischer advocated for this format.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely love Fischer Random. I played as a kid in chess training camps. We played Fischer Random just to improve our skills in terms of creativity and finding our way through random positions. I do love this variant as a viewer and player. And I'm looking forward to seeing how well the top players of the world, including Garry Kasparov, will find their way through the different starting positions. There is castling. I see that question mentioned a lot in the chat. It is possible to castle in Fischer Random the same way. You need to vacate the space between the king and the rook. Depending on the starting position, you may also end up having a rook right next to the king. So that's different.
Yes.
But there is castling. You can castle. Magnus forgot that he had the option of castling twice in that match between him and Nakamura in Norway 2 years ago, and it was a really strong move in the game. Hikaru pointed out in the game analysis that Magnus should have castled, and he forgot. He just brought the rook in. So it's not as normal.
Wow.
They are not used to it, those random castling moves.
That is actually pretty amazing. I did not know that. Yeah, obviously the kind of inaugural championship of Fischer Random was this Magnus versus Hikaru match, where I think Hikaru also flagged Magnus in some game, and they had no increment, which makes it more exciting. But there's this whole element of respect that grandmasters have to uphold. One thing before we get going, I do see a question of when the games are starting and all this. Games will be starting a few minutes past the hour. And that's just because of where they're being hosted and the logistical aspects of starting a game online and making the first move and whatnot. So some challenges, but we'll overcome, and it's going to be beautiful. And maybe it won't be beautiful. Who knows what we're going to see? The first round matchup.
What do you expect?
Oh,
Sorry, Levi. What do you expect? And have you played much Fischer Random yourself?
I have played enough, but I haven't played any high stakes or, and anything incredibly competitive. Like I don't think I played one tournament of Fischer Random, but I was like 14 or 15, so that was a very long time ago. Maybe before we get going, we pull up the first Hikaru ad of the day.
Sure, let's do it.
You guys don't know, more Hikaru just launched on YouTube. There's a video up there already, and you're missing out. You are missing out if you are not swerving your car to the right rather than driving on the rest of the highway. So,
exactly. Keep driving straight, but also turn right for more GM Hikaru on YouTube. And as Levi mentioned, there's already one video, high quality video, I must say, with top 3 content creators out there. I'm just saying, it was the 3 team sub battle that we played the other day, Levi, Hikaru, and myself.
Yes, it is the 3 team sub battle. Oh, we just spoiled the surprise. So
yeah,
maybe they actually thought
I'm
it was
not good at this. I'm not good at not spoiling.
Yeah, and I think we basically just hype up the event until the games are live, and that's, it is what it is. There will be technical hiccups potentially, but we will mitigate them as they come. Oh, we took a poll. Can Garry do well after retirement? And 66% of you voted that he will score over 50%. His first round matchup, Anna, is against Alireza Firouzja, who we have not heard much from. Where is Alireza?
He does play a lot online, but it's true that now with the lockdown situation, it's not that simple for the elite players to get a chance. He did play in the first event of the Magnus tour, but I don't think he was invited to the rest. Unfortunately, not everybody could get into all the legs of the Magnus Carlsen chess tour, but he's such a rising star. He beat Magnus Carlsen in the finals of the Banter Blitz Cup, so he did already take down the world champion once in an online blitz match, but we shall see how are his Fischer Random skills.
Yes, exactly. And I know so many of you are anxiously awaiting the start. Whenever the games begin, you have to understand that since we're not hosting them on chess.com, what that means is we basically wait for the signal and the games to be sent on a global scale. So we might have a little bit of a delay. We will catch up when the games launch, but that's unfortunately the struggle. I can't get them playing right here behind me.
That's all right, Levi. It's also because first the positions need to be drawn, then those positions need to be shown to the players, and then they will start the games a few minutes after. So that is why it's taking longer. But yes, as you said, Kasparov doesn't have an easy first round. That there is no easy pairing, but it also will be the game that he plays with the biggest age gap. Alireza being the youngest participant, he's only 17 years old, while Garry Kasparov, as his Twitter handle says, Kasparov 63. No, he's not 63 years old. Do the math here. Do the math.
Yeah, he's not he's actually, I think Garry Kasparov has the same birthday as someone in my family. Same everything, I think, lines up one to one.
Let me check the exact birthday. He was born on April the 13th in 1963, as you guys could guess from his Twitter handle, in Baku, Azerbaijan.
There you go. And yeah, I'll pull up games on our auxiliary watching mechanism, which is the backup board, the fabled backup board. It would not be a first day of coverage if we didn't have some sort of issue, right? And that's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. It gives us more time to discuss who will be the favorite in Fischer Random? Do you think we can highlight some of the players as being stronger than the rest of the field in Fischer Random chess? How do you see that, Levy?
Probably. Well, first of all, let's not forget we have Wesley So playing, who is quite literally the world champion at Fischer chess.
Yes, he
Fischer
is.
Random. Yeah. So
and he said he almost prefers Fischer Random over classical chess or traditional chess. That's how much Wesley loves Fischer Random.
I mean, let's be real. If I won the world championship at something, I might stop playing the other thing that I play as well. So
true.
We'll use this not so pretty board, but the events page board for now. Lenier versus Hikaru, and. Now, every position is... Whoa, some of these games are like almost done. So every position is the same on every board to begin with. Okay? Mm-hmm. And on the board, we've got a centralized king. I mean, do you know any meta of Fischer Random, or do we just go straight through the moves?
Well, since I was commentating with Grandmaster Yasuo Seirawan, that event between Hikaru and Magnus, I did pick up on a couple of things. For instance, a bishop in the corner is great because oftentimes in traditional chess, you also would go for fianchettoing your bishop, and it means that your bishop on h1 is already on the right diagonal, but it does make the h2 pawn vulnerable. So that's one of the weak spots in this starting position, as well as the a2 pawn from what I see.
Okay. Got it. So the bishop in the corner, and there we go. Lenier activates it immediately. So does Hikaru. We have knight c3, c6, trying to blunt the knight on c3. It's kind of a... Oh, my God. We even see a London here. That's kind of upsetting, but it's fine. Is that it? Wait, what?
Knight to a6. All right. Yeah, the knight was hanging, and Hikaru didn't want to place it on d7.
Wait, that's actually hilarious.
I think the starting position for knights in the corner is the opposite as the bishop. So for bishops, you are happy about it. For the knights, it's awful, of course.
Yeah, wait, that bishop was literally attacking a knight on b8 that has nothing guarding it.
Yeah.
Gosh. Knight a6, yes, looking like the garbage speedrun. Some people already have, like, a lot of moves played. So, Aronian and Caruana started out with I mean, how do GMs play e4, e5 to start a Fischer Random game, Anna? Like, this is... Now we have a Scotch. Queen's out. Alright, now it's starting to look more and more like a normal game. And these guys are 11 moves in.
11 moves in, and there was castle kingside by black played on move 7 and castle also by white on move 9, so we can show how it worked out.
Yeah, so this king and rook interact for short castling, this king and rook interact for long castling, and if the bishop moves out of the way, then this king can hop over to where the bishop used to stand, and that would be Fischer Random. That's how you castle in Fischer Random, so you gotta love it. I want to scan all the games. I mean, Firouzja Kasparov is... Oh, so these guys started... Hey, does this look familiar, Anna?
Wait a second. You're now in the Kasparov game, right? Let me also open it on my
Firouzja
board.
Kasparov, I'm getting deja vu.
Whoa! Whoa. Interesting. Tell us about your deja vu. I wonder if it's the same that I have.
Yeah, well, knight b3 is where we deviated. Well, no, f5 is really where we deviated. But look at this. Wow. f5 from Garry. Aggressive start to the game.
Aggressive. Yeah, it's kind of like the setup that Cutie Cinderella went for in almost every single game at PogChamps. So maybe Kasparov was following PogChamps. Maybe he was inspired by Cutie as much as I was because she's amazing and he was shout out to Cutie. I don't know if Kasparov has any of those games up as his preparation, but I do like the pawn structure.
That's an interesting point. Where is that in the rules? Can you wait to see how your partners play? Or not partners, but your competitors? Like, can I just sit there and be like, oh, that looks nice?
Yeah. I guess there's nothing against waiting, but I don't know how much you even want to rely on anybody else unless you're sure that they are better than you at Fisher Random. But even then, there will be deviation a few moves later for sure. And the time control is not that long. I think we should mention that it starts with 20 minutes for both players, and the increment is only 10 seconds. So I don't think anybody wants to waste that precious time.
No, of course. I'm just suggesting ridiculous things because I
Hot take of the day, number one.
Yes. Hot take of the day number one. I saw some other hot takes. I mean, obviously we have chats open. Someone said we are absolutely dog at commentary, Anna. So what are
I
your
like
thoughts on
dogs,
that?
so thank you for the compliment. Thanks a lot.
That's definitely an interesting take. I will again. We what were we told last time? Don't talk about the games or talk about the games. What was going on?
I think both, because there's never a good balance. Sometimes it's too much chess, sometimes it's too much story time. So the balance lab, it does not exist. But we do appreciate you guys. In all honesty, it's incredible how much you guys have been supporting Hikaru during the Magnus Carlsen chess tour, and how many of you already are here for the very first day of the Champions Showdown. So thank you so much for being here, for rooting for Hikaru or for other players. You also can pick other players, obviously. We are here on Hikaru's channel, and we will be mainly focusing on Hikaru's games, but we cannot not look at Garry Kasparov's game. We cannot not look at Magnus Carlsen's games. And in general, this is going to be such a fascinating event. So thank you for being here with us for this event. Starting today, we'll be here for 3 days with the Fisher Random, and then 5 days Rapid and Blitz.
Yes, exactly right. I think it's time to give some respect to two other players. The first official random world champion, Wesley So, versus Peter, professional Hearthstone streamer Svidler.
Mm-hmm. The pawn structure, the same pawn structure. Well, there's no pawn on c6, but a knight on c6 in comparison to Kasparov's game. Wesley went for knight c6.
Also, Queen f2 on move 2 by Peter Svidler is very refined.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. That's why the knight is on c6, because the pawn on a7 was hanging. See, in the starting position, both flank pawns are hanging, both h2 and a2, as well as h7 and a7. So queen f2 was pointing at that straight away.
And look at this. He plays d3, faking that he's going to push the e pawn to e4, and then he plays d4.
That's interesting.
Yeah. This is... You gotta love Fisher Random.
I'm trying to understand the reason why Svidler went for d3 first and then after d5, d4. Sometimes it makes sense to do it, but I don't feel like here there was such a big deal to pushing d4 straight away.
Yeah, rather than just d3. I guess that, you know, if the pawn stays back more, you have a little bit more flexibility, and that's really why they do what they do. Let me try to kind of adjust. Have like this eval bar here. Everybody. We don't have an eval bar on this specific setup, but we do have, as best as we can get to, some sort of computer evaluation. How good are engines at Fisher Random nowadays? What is...
Online engines that are already struggling to catch up unless you leave them, I think, for a while. And now in Fisher Random, I don't think we'll get precise evaluations, but it's for a rough one, for an idea. I think it's okay. It's about equal, about the same evaluation for both sides. I think that should be correct. It's very symmetrical, the pawn structure especially.
And the only game we haven't peeped at yet, Magnus Carlsen. Mr. Magnus Carlsen.
We left the world champion for last, playing against
Sicilian. Wow.
They did play the Sicilian. It doesn't matter that it's Fisher Random. They just said, you know what, a knight f would be great. But
Yeah,
then knight e2, queen to e2, so I was saying, and then this bishop developing to a6.
it's the
I
queen.
Yeah, white has already castled on move 4. I wonder if Magnus has any intention of castling, because for him it would mean that he either has castle queenside, which would mean that his king basically just drops to c8, or if he castles kingside and the king is on g8, which is an open file. There are no g pawns in front of that black king for black structure, so I don't think he wants to castle kingside here.
Yeah, it's a tricky position, and do you see what I see at the bottom left? Do you see that the engine is saying the only move is rook h8? What? It
The
wants to start
only
an attack?
move?
Well, to
The
not
only
apparently.
move?
Yeah, how much do we trust the Fisher random computer, by the way?
Well, we don't trust it at all, but rook h8? What? Excuse me?
I guess you just want to play pawn to h5. You want to attack with the h pawn. Very interesting position. Ridiculous is a better way of describing it. It's probably.
Yeah, definitely. Let me give a shout out to our PogChimps competitor, David Pacman, if I see that is the authentic.
It's the real David, yes.
The real, the original, the one and only David Pacman in the chat saying this is about to get crazy. I fully agree with you, David, and thank you so much for tuning in.
And Hikaru's game is already also very spicy. You know, obviously I think the matchup that features two of the most prominent names in the game is Kasparov versus Alireza. That is a very cool matchup. So probably we will keep that one up very long. I know everybody wants me to flip the board here, so we get to see it from Hikaru's perspective. I don't know if this will flip all the boards. It did not. Okay, cool. So
you need to do it manually for you.
Yeah, we do see it from Hikaru's perspective. We have e5, which is a sacrifice. That's actually a pawn sacrifice. And I think he wants Lenier to take, and then he will push his d pawn forward. That's what he wants, I think.
I like that idea. It's possibly going to turn out as a temporary pawn sacrifice, but for now, yes, white can take that free pawn on e5. And after d4, where does that knight go? Okay, Dominguez says, I'm not interested in your sacrifices. I'm just going to go solid here.
Yeah, well, Dominguez is definitely... I mean, Dominguez is... His whole demeanor is solid, stable. I don't know much about Lenier, but... Oh, and the e5 pawn is hanging!
It's always hanging!
Oh, wow. I mean, that... I don't know how we just... It's always the case.
Do we have a command for the pawn on e5? Because at this point, I think we'll need one.
Oh, of course we have a command. Yeah. Yeah, of course we have.
e5. e5 it is. I just got back from the bathroom. Is e5 hanging? Says Mubot for the 176th time. I love Mubot.
I know.
So Mubot a trade happened.
So we actually got the same thing in the Caruana game. We got a rook coming to d4, and the bishops traded. Because I think the players want stability pretty fast. I mean, it's better not to be caught out like in the ocean of these positions. I think Aronian Caruana also had a rook on d4. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they did the same trade on d4. Very similar. Yes. I like this position for Hikaru. Fian cat queen. Now that they traded bishops, the dark squares are controlled by the black queen. Knight b3. Very natural move to get that knight out of the corner, defend the rook on d4. What's the right follow-up here for Hikaru?
The answer is on the screen. I'm trying not to look at it. It's very tempting, you know. It's like having a test bank in college. Not speaking from experience. I would never do that. I respect academic integrity. Wait, but Sienna, wait. Did the computer say castles? Oh, it did. But now it's saying castles is even better than knight c5.
Yes, knight c5 would have been an interesting move, trying to deflect the knight of the defense of this d4 rook, but castle kingside is such a natural move. You don't want to keep that king on the e file, which is just about to open up after e takes d5. So Hikaru plays the most natural move. Knight c5 is still an option for the future. I think he's doing well. I would give him good odds for this game.
Yeah,
in terms of full point, scoring the full point. I mean, of course.
Right. I think a style like this fits Hikaru's. Sorry. Not playing style. I should say the style of the game, the style of the tournament benefits a player like Hikaru because he's tactically very sharp, and so he prefers an imbalance versus. How many Berlin games did we see in the last tournament?
True. Yes. The tactical vision of Hikaru, his creativity are definitely skills that will be helping him in Fischer Random. So I think this first game is getting hot in here with that e-file open. Seems like Dominguez is now worried about the check on e8. Will he just play king to d1 after rook f e8 check?
Probably, yeah. Rook e8 seems very natural. Dominguez, his position already seems to be in some trouble. Even I know we have the answers right there on the screen, everybody, but don't believe everything you see. It does look pretty dangerous, whether or not we want to admit it or not.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a quick look at the rest of the boards and tell you which one is the most exciting in this very moment. We will of course come back to Hikaru's position as soon as possible. Magnus Carlsen's position could still be very exciting because Magnus is trying to go for a queen trade, but I don't think that MVL is interested in that queen trade. He did play rook h8 in that position where the engine was saying that that's the only move for black. So Magnus found it. He played rook h8.
Oh wow!
And then MVL prevented the pawn push by placing the queen on h5.
Physically preventing the pawn from getting onto h5. Amazing. Wow.
Incredible position after c4. I don't exactly understand what's going on here. Yeah, well, why doesn't want to take because that would ruin the pawn structure and bishop takes c4 will hit on the rook on f1. But knight c1 seems a little passive, although he could have been just right about the d3 pawn being in the air. And apparently the engine likes a lot knight to d4 instead of knight c1, giving advantage to white in that position.
Knight d4 with the idea to just sacrifice the pawn. I guess at the end of the day, because Magnus doesn't have a comfortable castling position, he's always got some concerns here. He's always got some worry. Whether or not he wins a pawn doesn't change too much.
Exactly. So knight d4 could have been very promising, but even after the trade on d3 with the knight on c1, if MVL retreats the queen to f3, which seems like the most natural move as it keeps the queens on the board, defends the d3 pawn, Magnus still has quite an unpleasant position, but at least he will be able to push the h pawn. So I get it. You either trade queens or you allow h5, h4.
Now I'm going to try to appease some of the audience and give us some sort of evaluation here. So we will see the potential evaluation of the position of one move, Anna, and then we've got to figure out why that one move is so good in one of these given positions. But chat is having a good time. They're dancing, you know.
Aww. Shout out to all of you tuning in once again. This is only the first day of the Fischer Random event in St. Louis, the Champion Showdown. First, we're going to have 3 days of Fischer Random, then a free day, and after that, the Rapid and Blitz begins. Garry Kasparov is back at the board. The last time he played an official event where he faced Magnus Carlsen was in 2004. Magnus was 13 years old and ranked number 700 in the world. So quite a lot has changed since, but Garry's back and he will be facing Magnus in one of the upcoming rounds, as well as, of course, facing Hikaru. That will be tomorrow, as far as I know.
Yes, that will be tomorrow. I believe, well, what I was ranting about, right? I rant on every stream about multiple subjects, but what I was ranting about specifically before this event began is that you cannot stockpile everything on day one. If they're smart, they will rig it so that today we get Kasparov, maybe against Hikaru, maybe against Alireza, maybe tomorrow we get Magnus Hikaru. On the third day, we get a lot of big name matchups. You can't put everything on day one.
You can't. No.
Like that doesn't. Then who's gonna watch day 2 and 3? Who want? I'm not gonna name any names. I'm not gonna say who wants to watch. We want to watch everybody, right? Speaking of Kasparov, what ended up happening in his game?
Good question, Levi. Very good question. After king b1, which is a natural move once you castle queenside, you then oftentimes place the king on b1 as a prophylactic idea to have the a2 pawn defended. Queen f6. Look at the queen bishop battery on the long diagonal, but it's bumping into the d4 pawn for now.
Yeah, it is bumping into d4, but you are threatening to take it, I believe.
True, the pawn on d4 is hanging, almost like e5. It's very similarly placed. e3, I would think, is a good way of protecting it. It does shut down the diagonal of the queen on f2, but after e3, does black have a good follow-up to try to... Oh, bishop c1, Svidler... Firouzja. I was looking at the queen on f2. I was like, Svidler had the queen on f2. I'm confused by all these different positions, but Firouzja goes for bishop c1, the rook protecting d4.
Yeah, bishop back to c1, and obviously rook defense. Kasparov flying in with knight c4. Look at Alireza. It's rare to see Alireza down 4 minutes on time, but he has shown that in rapid he is a little bit more tentative. That doesn't say any. I'm not denouncing his abilities by any stretch of the imagination, but I would imagine that playing against Mr. Kasparov, you know.
Yeah, against Mr. Kasparov, only 4 decades are the age gap between these two players. So the youngest versus the legend himself, Garry Kasparov here with the black pieces. I do like the fact that Garry is playing so quick this game in comparison to Alireza's speed, who is more used to online chess.
Yeah, but people have been also sending this clip around. Like, is Alireza participating in the Junior Speed Chess Championship?
I would have thought so.
I don't know the bracket, but I saw some rumor that he might not be, and that's just the thing. I don't know what he's been up to. I don't know what he's been up to, and it's weird because there was so much hype about him, and he was supposed to be the guy. He beat Magnus Carlsen after Magnus literally steamrolled the Banter Blitz Cup, met his match in the finals, and then now he's been quiet. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know what he's up to, but I know what Kasparov is up to. He has just castled. Ladies and gentlemen, another Fischer random castling. You see the king on e8, the rook on g8, and suddenly this is the king that is now on g8, and the rook goes to f8. So after castling, the king and the rook are on the traditional spots of castling. But before that, it looks insane. It looks like it's illegal to castle. Welcome to Fischer Random Chess.
Yeah, the opposite side castling here is going to be very spicy, because normally opposite side castling happens after some sort of opening, and that usually means, you know, you trade some pawns and pieces go to certain squares, then you go, you know, you do the Hikaru. Yeah, you know, I'm pretty sure I saw this game in 2004. I was actually having a beer and I was watching a Blitz game, and I think it was Aronian versus Caruana. They were just, you know, and you're like, here it's nothing. You have no reference, so it's all organic. Like, everything here is like straight non-GMO, all organic, and you try to figure it out.
That's the beauty of Fischer Random. At that very same World Championship, unofficial World Championship match between Nakamura and Carlson, they also gave a simultaneous exhibition on day 0, so to say. And normally when grandmasters play in simul against the club players or hobby players, it's just the first moves are being blitzed out because obviously they are well prepared in theory. But in Fischer Random, Magnus and Hikaru were thinking from move 1 against players rated about 1,000 points below them. They were thinking from move 1, which is great.
Yeah, that's you don't see that very often. Don't. Man. Oh, no, Chad. I was not having a beer in 2004. It was a hypothetical example. I was 9 in 2004. Relax. Not that Russian.
In 2004, I already had met Garry Kasparov. I met him first in 2002 because I traveled to the Black Chess Olympiad with my club. We just took a bus ride to Slovenia. That's where the Chess Olympiad was that year. And I was one of the lucky ones who managed to get a picture with him. as collecting signatures and all. But now we need to focus on also this final move, final for now, the f4 push. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize we switched to Magnus again. Let me go to that board. I was looking at Kasparov's position still. After d4, MVL is threatening with a fork, d5, so Magnus steps out of it by playing knight to a5, heading towards c4. Looks very logical, but somehow the engine was shouting for h takes first, and then rook takes h2, rook sacrifice.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's that's beautiful. And I can't even hypothetically put it on the board because we got knight to a5 instead. Sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately, we cannot move the pieces on these boards. Hopefully, they will be back on the usual live chess boards. But for now, it seems that Magnus missed a tactical chance that the engine was pointing out. Knight a5 is such a logical move, though, heading towards c4, which will be a great outpost for the knight, stepping out of the fork. But now MVL can take a breath and try to get rid of that attack on the king side. It's interesting how Magnus had this setup with the queen on the g file, then rook h8 being the best move in that position. When he played rook h8 was the only move for black, apparently, and then going for h5 h4 as soon as he could.
I do not mean to be separated from the analysis of the position. I'm just figuring out what we can do in terms of, you know, getting an eval bar and getting all this going, because we normally don't have this degree of issues. And for once, Anna, it's not our fault. It's not our fault. Well, no, not for once.
For once and for all.
Sometimes it's also not our fault. But today, it's.
Yeah, knight a5, as we said, or it's an alright move, but perhaps there was a mischance with h takes g3. Bishop e4 by MVL, very logical to try to chase that queen away from the g file, or at least make it somewhat more passive. Queen h5 and queen g7 come to mind. There aren't too many squares for the queen that would be even possible without losing the queen. Very, very deep analysis by me, by the way, just mentioning that you can barely move to any other squares. Maybe you can try queen g8 too, but that cuts the rooks from each other.
I feel like they're playing such random, like, it's just total chaos here between Magnus and MVL.
Yeah, it feels also so chaotic in a sense that White has full control of the center. Usually we tell all the beginners and advanced level players that, dude, the center is the most important part of the board. Just try to gather your pieces going in that direction. Your pawns, your pieces, you want to be controlling the center. So it feels like MVL has done a great job controlling the center. At the same time, Magnus has launched a flank attack against the White king on g1. That's why this position is exciting. If Magnus didn't have the kingside attack, he would be completely lost.
This looks really pleasant to play for Magnus, though, does it not? It's like the traditional attack on a king, except you have your queen on g7 somehow. Like, how did that happen? Your queen literally cannot get to g7 and then castle queenside. That doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't make sense for this board, but it's Fischer random, which is the beauty of the game. I want to just pop out Hikaru's game. Everybody said...
Sure. Sure, let's go back to Hikaru's game. Ooh. What has just happened? All right. So after the trade on d2, the trade of rooks, bishop takes b3, a piece sacrifice.
Oh, he just did it. Like, he just did it. He could have taken on b2 with the queen, but he decided to do this right away.
Yes, because if the bishop is taken, then after queen takes b2, the white king has no shelter. It's only a queen and the rook that will be attacking it. But the white pieces on f1 and g1, the queen and the rook, will not be able to protect the king. They will be just simple bystanders.
But what if he doesn't take is the big question.
Good question. And it's only equal material now. So even though Hikaru has just captured a pawn, it is making the material equal. So I would assume that white will not take, but possibly try to tuck in the king on c1, protect the b2 pawn, and it has just been played. Solid position, because now white is threatening to take the bishop, so Hikaru retreats to a4. Queen c4 and bishop c6. This is very solid. I had high hopes for the position they had earlier, but this one is becoming a bit too solid. And actually, from now on, it looks like it was traditional chess.
Yeah, now it just looks completely normal. It's probably just going to be a draw.
Yeah. I think we need to take a look at the other updates as well. In Kasparov's game, he has just offered a queen trade with queen to g5. I do like that actually, because if white were to trade after knight takes g5, the f3 pawn is hanging, and there aren't too many ways in which white can hold on to that pawn. In case you push the f pawn, you're weakening the light squares, the e4 square and the g4 square forever. So Firouzja plays rook to f1. I would assume this is still roughly equal, but I don't think that Kasparov has any problems here, and he does have still 3 more minutes on the clock. He has kept his time advantage. Will we see him pushing e5, or is there another plan? He takes on g3 first. Now he can retreat the knight if he wants to, or push e5, which is very logical to break through in the center. If white takes on e5, black can take back with the bishop, attack the pawn on g3, and hit on the knight as well on c3.
This is like vintage Kasparov, it feels like. He's just attacking, and I love to see it. He's like played f5, he's played e5, all his pieces are aggressive. Alireza has all these pieces on the back row. You would think this is Kasparov with white, the refined master, just, and Alireza trying to throw all these punches because he's got energy, and, Kasparov holding firm, but it's actually completely reversed. And Kasparov has 8 minutes versus 4, which, as you said, is important as they go down, because they only have 10-second increment, right? Not delay.
Yeah, 10-second increment. It is. I do think that there is no issue in black's position. He is at least equalized, I would say, after e5. Black's position is very comfortable. I do like this after d takes, bishop takes e5. I don't know if there's any other option for white. It's not that simple. How can white activate his pieces? That bishop on h1 that is blocked by the f3 pawn, the bishop on c1 is also not very strong. I think Kasparov is doing well, but it may not be too much. Might just be equality. Whose position is now equal is Wesley, so it shows quite some advantage for black because he has one material already. He is up. Well, wait, no, I thought he was up material. He's gonna be up if he takes now. Can he? Okay, this is confusing. I was hoping that you can just take on b2, but what's going on there, Levy?
Yeah, actually, we do have the answers on the screen. So Engine is just saying queen e7, and it's minus a million. Why?
Maybe the engine only suggests queen e7 as even stronger than taking, because then you have the option of taking on b2 with the knight. Or is there any tricks if black plays rook takes b2 instantly? That is a question. Because rook takes b2, queen a3 would look like it's curtains. That's why I thought that Wesley is winning on the spot.
Yeah, rook b2, it's like there must be something that we're missing. Maybe some rook takes d5? It's not even
looking at rook takes d5, yes, because if you take it with the bishop, then bishop takes c7 wins the queen on f8. But is it that strong, rook takes e5? Maybe it is because you're threatening rook d8 check, queen b7 mate. So he does play queen e7, protects the rooks, and steps out of the f5. So no more tricks for white. There are no more tricks for Svidler here, unfortunately, for Peter.
That's very impressive. Very, very impressive move. I mean, it doesn't mean much when I say a move is very impressive to Wesley, so potentially, but good job, Wesley. That is, that is a gangster move.
Yes, this could be the first decisive game because Wesley's position is dominant and that b2 pawn is not running away. It's going to be captured next move, and the king side of the queen side, in that case, of white is under very serious attack. Magnus's game is still very strange, once again, how much control white has in the center, but the flank attack that Magnus is building up on the king side is impressive, with all the heavy pieces on the g and h5s and the bishop on b7, trying to get some attack in through the long diagonal.
I just popped over there. Yeah, I think this is Magnus's game to win. With all the open files, it seems kind of terrifying, but
yeah.
And what on the time situation there, it's looking actually MVL is doing a good job. If the clocks are correct, which would be the cherry on the what Sunday? What is the term? The cherry on top. If our clocks also were wrong, that would be good. That would be premium content right there.
I thought you were just gonna make up a new term on purpose.
No, I'm busy getting Hikaru's game in a permanent spot on the bottom left of the board, actually.
I see. Okay,
we're gonna get
that's priority. Let me take over while you fix that. If you need time to do that, Hikaru's position. If we talk about that again, because we can bring that back maybe on the big board. It's still about equal, but in terms of the time management, Hikaru does have 2 extra minutes, and I like the activity of his bishop and queen. The rook still needs to be activated. Will he manage to push a4 in the right moment, or will he bring the rook to the e file? Those are 2 ways in which the rook could get some more activity.
Thank you. That was good teamwork. And in the meantime, we get a permanent board on the bottom left.
Amazing.
Or hopefully permanent. We'll see. No
Very
promises.
good job, Levy.
Yeah, we're just going directly to the source. Obviously, this is not a chess.com tournament, and the organizers chose to play it on a different website, which does exist and does have a name. But I don't know the name. I just know. And so yeah, we have the Hikaru game at the bottom left in actually the same kind of color scheme that we normally do. So that's nice.
Very impressive production there. I do see that we may have to switch boards regardless. If Levy, you're also looking at her internal communications, we might have to switch boards anyway. I'll leave that to you because I'm not sure.
It's I'm
not sure how I can help.
Not a big deal, but actually I'm getting a little bit nervous because this is starting to look okay for Lenier, and the time situation, he's got 2 minutes. Okay, and he just offers a queen trade, which is so boring.
Very solid position. At the same time, yeah, I do agree that white is taking over. All the white pieces are active. After a queen trade, that knight would be amazingly placed on e5, hitting on the c6 bishop and the pawn on f7. So Hikaru keeps the queen on the board, but that does allow moves like queen to c7, potentially just creeping into the position, putting pressure on the f7 and a5 pawns. I hope that Hikaru is not pushing it too much, because he clearly wanted to get more out of this game than just a solid draw, and I just hope that he will not fall onto the other side of that evaluation bar because of trying too hard.
But is queen... yeah, well, queen f3, I was going to say, as I turn back. Yeah, queen f3 is trying to keep the tension, but it could backfire. Lenier is an incredibly solid player, so... Again, he can just continue to try to go with queen e3 and try to trade the queens, but... don't know if that's the optimal approach here.
Mm-hmm. So after rook d4...
Yeah, rook d4, rook f4 is very logical also. You can't even... I don't think you can take on f2 because rook f4 and it's game over.
True. Rook f4 is a huge threat with that f7 pawn being in the air. What is it that Hikaru will need to do in order to get out of this danger? Or with the queen on f3, maybe it's not too bad still, because at least you can go back to d5, but there will be a fork at the end with knight b6 and other annoying issues. This is getting troublesome for Hikaru, unfortunately.
Yeah, this isn't so... This is not so good. What do you play here? Probably you have to go with some sort of counterplay. But if you move your rook from e8... a8 to e8... your a5 pawn is falling, and I'm not sure what that means for your position. It's definitely not so pleasant.
Yeah, most certainly not pleasant. Unless after the pawn being captured on a5, black has queen f6 to pin that rook on d4 and try to create counterplay with that. But white can go back to c3 with the queen, and I don't really see a follow-up for black.
Oh, and there is a way to get clocks and everything live. Okay, that is good. So we'll get to see their clock time live, and probably at the start of the next game we will just have a way to do this in a much more seamless manner. We'll probably go on break once games end, and then we will have figure this all out so we don't have to do it on the fly. I feel like Anna's been doing commentary, and they're like, "Yo, what's this guy's job again? Like, why is he here?"
Go on, Levi, you're doing great. This is day one, and unfortunately, we are experiencing technical issues, not from our side for once, but because it's not so easy to get hold of the games in real life. So there have been issues with the boards being transmitted, the game moves being transmitted straight away to chess.com. We will work on it for the future rounds, but Levi's doing amazing, just making sure that you guys can catch up with the games, and he is the producer behind the show. So if he's not talking, it means that he is trying to fix everything on screen. I'm here to do the talking.
Yeah, we actually did get a queen trade though, and wait, sorry, what is this? Oh, he's basically just saying trade the rook with me too, and then it's going to be knight in 5 versus bishop in 4. Oh man. Lenier is incredibly solid. I mean, what do you like? How do you beat a guy that's just this solid?
I don't know, especially since after the rook trade, that minor piece endgame, even though in general the bishop would be better than the knight when it comes to pawns being on both flanks, since the bishop is a long-range piece over the knight being a little slower. In this position, the white king is very close to the queenside pawns, and the knight will jump back to c4 to attack the pawns too. So if anyone has a chance in that minor piece endgame, it is white. And for that reason, I don't know what is the best option here for Hikaru. If you do keep the rooks on the board, where do you go? Rook e7 to be a bit defensive, but the pawn on a5 is hanging.
Yeah, pawn on a5 is going to collapse if he goes back to e7. He might just have to take on d2 and just... It's Fischer random, but at the end of the Fischer random games, you are going to get a relatively unpleasant endgame potentially. And let me just go around some of the other games. Firouzja Kasparov. Wow, Firouzja has put a serious clamp on Garry, actually. This is like, again, exactly what you would expect the older veteran to do to the young, you know, like a younger opponent. The guy gets too aggressive, so you punish them, but not here. Not here.
After this move, the knight going back, let me also switch to that board. So once again, this is the biggest clash of the round in terms of having The former world champion, the legend himself, Garry Kasparov, back at the board, facing the youngest participant, maybe the future world champion, Alireza Firouzja. There's 40 years of age gap between these two players. And knight d1 is a knight maneuver heading toward e3 to target that f5 bishop. Very logical. I do think that white is doing better when it comes to piece activity. That knight on h3 is out of the game.
Yeah, is Garry just like busted here?
Possibly, yes. I don't know what he can do about knight e3 because, okay, he plays rook to e6 to try to trade that active rook of white, but white doesn't need to react because once you take on e5, pawn takes back and that will be a protected pass pawn.
King comes up to g6, and what is the pawn count in this game? It's 6 pawns each, and he has a protected passed pawn, and just looks like a good position. Also, what is Garry's knight doing on h3?
That's the issue. If that knight was anywhere else, let's say on e6, that would be totally fine, blocking the e5 pawn. But from h3, there is no way out. The pawn structure of white is not allowing a knight jump to g5 or anywhere else. And the rook on f1 is making sure that we cannot maneuver toward the e4 square with knight f2, knight to e4. Hopefully, the rook cannot stay on f1 forever from Garry's perspective, because he does need that knight back in the game.
This is crazy. Wow. Alireza might straight up just win this game.
I think he has a really good chance. After king g6, c4 is the choice of Alireza to basically break through in the center, weaken the pawn structure of black. But wait, is this the right moment to do this, though?
It might not be. No, it might not be.
Yes, d4 seems like a really strong response, because now after the trade on f5, black suddenly also has a passed pawn. I don't think Alireza chose the correct moment, but he's also super low on time. He's down to his final 24 seconds, and c4 seems to have been a mistake.
Yeah, because now Garry at least gets to create some fortress, and you have to move your rook. Oh, and wait, we just had h4, and maybe Garry's gonna break through here.
I like this a lot now for black. I think Garry Kasparov has turned the tables. I think if anyone can win now, it is Kasparov. After h4, targeting the f4 pawn, trying to undermine that pawn, white pushes f5, but that does give up the e5 pawn. e5 is always hanging. And what a tactical motive that he takes on e5 to sacrifice the exchange.
Oh, so and hg3.
Exactly. He gives up the exchange to then now play h takes g3. Will he do it with the rook down? Will he take on g3 and then just push the g pawn and say, I don't care that you have just captured my rook. I'm gonna push the g pawn and claim victory.
Wow. Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, Garry Kasparov is back.
That is amazing.
He takes on s7, which is maybe not as flashy and fireworky as h takes g3, but it's also possibly a winning move, because even though white has a rook versus a knight, the pass pawns of black will be too strong. If g takes h4, g3, g2, g1, and you'll need to give up the rook for that pawn.
Wow. That's amazing. He's just got this g-pawn rolling in, and there's no way to stop it.
Incredible how he turned the tables. He was in an unpleasant endgame, and from that unpleasant endgame, he ends up sacrificing an exchange to get this winning endgame because of the g pass pawn. It's winning for black. Very impressed. I'm very impressed with Garry Kasparov. If he just now takes on g3, it's true that white has prevented g2, but knight f4, g2 can come anyway. Okay, rook g2 was fast enough, but there's a second g pawn that black has, and all he needs to do is to play king f4 and then start pushing.
Yeah, that's it. Do we have results anywhere else? Wesley so beat Peter Svidler. MVL is still in a battle. What the hell is this? Aronian has king and queen versus king, knight, bishop, and 2 pawns.
What?
I don't know. It's probably going to be a draw. I mean, I doubt that either player can make a whole lot of progress here. Hikaru is just defending a worse endgame. Unfortunately, he's just got knight and 4 and bishop and 3, and it looks unpleasant. It just looks unpleasant, and his pawns are immobile. If he had some sort of degree of imbalance, looks like Linier actually is on his way to win. He's going to push the c-pawn along with the king and the knight, and I think the movement of the bishop is severely restricted. I mean, it's not restricted, but you have no targets because white's pawns are all on dark squares.
True that it's going to be very difficult to break through here if it's possible at all because of the bishop defending both pawns. What an awkward position, but also likely to end in a draw. What we hope would be likely to end in a draw is Hikaru's endgame, but this is a pawn up for Lenier Dominguez, and his king is very active. The knight is well placed on e3, so Lenier has a great chance to score his first win in the event. First round, of course, so it's going to be a first point for everyone, but Dominguez is doing a great job to beat Hikaru Nakamura in this very first game. Let's remember, too, that Lenier Dominguez, even though he's not one of the most known players in the field, he's a former World Blitz champion.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. When did that happen? What year was that?
2008, former World Blitz champion Lenier Dominguez. He played on board 1 for Cuba multiple times at the Chess Olympiad, and he has since switched to the United States in terms of chess federation and has been helping Fabiano Caruana for his world championship match, and possibly the candidates too, I would assume, if he's on Fabi's team in general.
Wow. Okay, that is an interesting and impressive resume, and he's also like top 10 in the world, top 15, his official ranking.
He is. In terms of rapid rating, he's number 6 in the world. Rapid rating of 2786.
By the way, Magnus is down to a rook and 2 versus rook and 1 endgame, just in case anybody's curious about Fischer Random. All these games and ended endgames. I think Aroni and Caruana did in fact agree to a draw because it's a mutual fortress. Neither player can really make any progress despite the extra queen. Hikaru, I mean, he's stuck defending here against Linier. And Linier's only got 30 seconds, which is what you rely on here, basically. You just try to keep your fortress and look and see if they can't break through. Firouzja did resign, by the way, so...
He did. So, that is the legendary Garry Kasparov, the 13th world champion, starting with a win with the black pieces against chess prodigy Alireza Firouzja. Possibly a future world champion, but in this very moment, Garry Kasparov turned the tables from a difficult endgame and won the game with that exchange sacrifice. Beautifully done.
Well, it's, kid, you might be fresh, you might be new, but I still got it. Garry Kasparov
still has it for sure.
Make no mistake about it. He can still ball. He can post up. He can shoot the 3. I mean, he's unstoppable on defense. All right, enough basketball references. I don't think Garry actually partakes, but I would love to see Garry play basketball. Do you have any? What does Garry do? Any sports?
In terms of sports, I think he was very active and he competed in terms of just keeping fit. Much like Magnus, I think he did care a lot about his physical fitness as well. But I don't know which one would be his favorite sport when it comes to practicing a sport outside chess.
I feel like he's a swimmer. That's something he does. I feel like he goes to the pool, does his like 50 laps. I feel like swimming is a sport for Garry. That's my prediction.
I think I heard of that, but I also think he played other sports as well. I wonder if football and basketball were on his resume just as much as Magnus's, or it was more about swimming, tennis, and such. But yes, he's back at the board, and he started with a win. There were 40 years of age difference between Alireza Firouzja and Garry Kasparov in this very first game. But it did not matter. It did not matter. Kasparov played faster, and he was sharper in that critical moment after c4.
Yep. That's exactly right. There is just no better way to describe it. And in this game, Hikaru has to sacrifice his bishop for the passed pawn. He's trying to activate his king. and get into the position and try to win some pawns. But unfortunately, it is looking like it is going to be a point for Lenier Dominguez. No other way around it. Very, very nice performance from Lenier. Just solid from the opening, withstood a sacrifice. It seemed like Hikaru was trying to play a little bit maybe like bully on the board, the sacrifice and everything, and Lenier just was stable, calm, and now he just has to convert this endgame, and he should win.
Yes, exactly. I think that's how the game went. You described it so well, that Hikaru was trying, but maybe tried too much at some stage. And if you push too hard, your opponent is as strong as Lenier Dominguez, former World Blitz champion, and he'll take his chances and he strikes back and is likely to convert his endgame. Who was also likely to convert his endgame is Magnus Carlsen against Bashir. Oh, he has just done it, yeah. That rook endgame with 2 pawns up is too easy for Magnus, or for Maxime. He would also win it with the black pieces, of course.
Yeah, so we should have our scores up here for the first round. Kasparov wins against Firouzja, Wesley So defeating Peter Svidler, and Carlson winning with black also. And it's interesting because I think Chesbe had written I think it was Chesbe. She wrote that Hikaru had talked about it before. Hikaru prefers to play with the black pieces. Actually, he has said that Fischer Random, to him, it seems, moving with black because white commits first. White commits something first, and if you don't commit, you risk surrendering the center or something like that. We see black winning the 3 games in the first round.
Yeah, interesting stats, and interesting how in Fischer Random having the black pieces is not the same as having the black pieces in traditional chess, since there's not much chess theory, if there's any, in Fischer Random. This has been a very exciting start. I'm guessing that after this game is still on, Hikaru is still trying to defend, but he would need to grab both pawns of white in order to make a draw.
I think it is official. I think he resigned. Yeah, there was some delay, so Lenier gets the win. He's the only player with the white pieces to actually win this round. It was an exciting and chaotic game. Let's take a break. I don't actually know how long there is between the rounds, but we'll take a break. We'll get everything sorted on the technical end, and we'll continue round 2 of coverage.
Exactly, 5 decisive results, and next up, Kasparov versus Carlsen. So don't go anywhere.
Welcome back, everybody. Appreciate your patience. We fixed a few technical issues, ranted a little bit, had a heart-to-heart. Now we're back with a very exciting second round matchup. Anna, you were just telling me that you want to read some tweets out.
Absolutely. It wasn't even before the round, but before the actual event started. But Magnus Carlsen did tweet at 6:30 my time. So that was just about an hour and a half before the round started. Playing Garry today. That was what the world champion said with a link to the St. Louis Chess Club. But Garry Kasparov quoted this tweet and responded to Magnus, playing Magnus today, feeling a little like Obi-Wan, and not in the prequels, but that's better than feeling like Yoda. Watch live. And tagging, of course, the St. Louis Chess Club. So there you have it, Garry Kasparov feeling a little bit like Obi-Wan, but at least not like Yoda. He's now one of the leaders of the tournament. He won his first game against Alireza Firouzja and will have the white pieces against Magnus Carlsen in round 2.
Wow. Yeah, and he's got he does have the white pieces. What are any predictions? I guess is the big question. What do we expect to see? I mean, we don't know. We have no clue what the position is.
The position will be drawn in 6 minutes. So they have a set schedule for the round, meaning that officially the position will be drawn at 3:30 Eastern, and then the games will start at 3:33 Eastern. So you have 3 minutes to adjust to the new starting position. Reminder on Fischer Random that there are 960 different starting positions. If we exclude the traditional one, then 959. Still plenty to study.
Yeah, plenty to study, and people were even asking in the chat, like, what does this mean? Like, can they prepare in advance? Can you study some of the positions? Yes, but it's kind of difficult because imagine studying 960 concepts for a test. This is why I became a chess
Yeah.
professional and not.
Exactly. I do love this feature of chess 960 that it's so random to starting position that even the top players in the world with the biggest chess theory knowledge will start thinking from move one on, because you just cannot memorize this much theory, as Levi said. Even at the World Championship match between Magnus and Hikaru at Fischer Random, uh, as I said, they had some time, a bit more time than 3 minutes between the drawing of the position and the games, and their teams helping them to get started with, okay, what will be your first two moves, the first three moves. That was just about the depth in which they could analyze the starting positions within 10-15 minutes, the time they had at their disposal. And here it's even less time. I think what probably they tried to prepare for are different patterns. So depending on if your bishop is in the corner, how do you deal with that? If your knight is here or here or here, what's a good setup and such. But it so depends on the rest of the pieces too. So yeah, not easy to be ready for every single starting position.
Absolutely not. Do we have time to even play like a quick 3 minute chess 960 game, or?
We could try if it's a very quick one. I have my slower mouse here, so if there's increment, I would appreciate. But or we could just abort the game when we see that they start.
We you know what? This time let's banter. But the schedule actually permits us to like play 100 games in between each round,
Mhm.
uh, because the format of the event is actually pretty wild. Every round gets a designated 90 minutes, and
Yeah.
that is a lot of time because we saw that just now we had a 28-minute break between the ending of the round and the start of the next one. That's a lot of time. The players only used about 70%, 75% of their allotted time.
Yes. We probably will stay here for the next break or come back earlier. We did have technical issues. Apologies for that. But as Levi said, for once in our lives, it wasn't on our end. It wasn't that easy to get hold of the actual live positions of the games. But I think we are now set for the second round, and hopefully everything will go smooth. And then we can continue with maybe a mini match between Levi and me and Fisher Random for the next breaks.
Is there anything else intriguing about the pairings of the round? Just trying to take a look. Kasparov Carlson, Hikaru Aronian. That's an interesting one. Carl won MVL.
Mm-hmm.
Let's also not forget that the candidates tournament, we've had all this online chess, and actually a lot of people the past 6 months, I'm sure, have stumbled into the chess world
Yeah.
through the online portal, but they are not maybe familiar with the fact that before this whole boom happened, there was a candidates tournament going on to determine who would play against Magnus Carlsen in the next World Championship match. Anna, how many of these players are in that event?
A
Three?
couple of them indeed, and two of them are facing each other. Fabiano Caruana versus Maxim Vachilagrov. Both of them are in the candidates tournament. And another interesting fact about the candidates tournament, that because of the health worldwide health situation and countries going into lockdowns, the tournament had to be paused after half of the rounds were played. So it is still an event that has not been finished. It was put on a hold back in March, and they are planning to play the rest of the rounds now in November. They have two locations, Yekaterinburg, Russia, the original location, and in case the situation changes in Russia by November, then Tbilisi, Georgia will be hosting the second half of the event of the candidates tournament. So half a year of delay to see who will be the challenger of Magnus Carlsen, and of course the World Championship match itself is being postponed to next year.
I'm pumped. I'm not so pumped for long over the board games. I don't
Mhm.
know whether my hyperactive nature and immediate response time to a device or a shorter time control is going to permit me to enjoy classical chess as much as we once did.
Yeah.
But at least you know that someone is going to be competing for the world championship, which still has the highest value in the world of chess.
Mhm. It still is, of course, to be the challenger of the world champion. All of these top players are fighting for the champion's crown. You are in for it because you want to be the number one. You want to take the throne of Magnus Carlsen. And that's what 13-year-old Magnus probably was dreaming of when he played Garry Kasparov for the first time back in 2004. And he did so well. He drew that game. Garry retired a year later, maybe just knowing that this Magnus guy might be good in the future.
Wow, that's is that the hot take of the stream, that Garry retired after playing Magnus?
No, it was a year later when he retired, and he retired as number one. So he retired being the best, still the best, arguably the greatest of all time. There are always certain comparisons, but I think no one can take away credit from Garry Kasparov as being one of the greatest, if not the greatest, of all time in chess.
I'm just being annoying. I
know.
And we should also say that for the duration of, I guess, today and until we can figure it out tomorrow, we will be just getting the feed directly from the Lichess server. There's some struggle with technology, whether the feed is not sending correctly or is not being received correctly. We're trying to figure things out, but let me tell you, it is a pain to have to, navigate all of this and try to say. Levy can't say the word Lichess or something. No, we are very well aware and very very proud and happy to use the site directly. Actually, the St. Louis Chess Club is organizing the games directly on Lichess, not on chess.com, not on Chess24. So we are at the mercy of whatever PGN feed we are receiving, if that's the right word. So, there you go.
Yes, we will use the resources we can to bring you guys the best possible experience, indeed. And to the question regarding the candidates, if Hikaru is playing in it, no, Hikaru did not qualify to the candidates tournament. But two players who will join the Rapid and Blitz, they are in it as well. Alexander Grishuk and Jan Nepomniachtchi. They are not playing in the Fischer Random, but after the 3 days of Fischer Random, there will be a 5-day Rapid and Blitz with some of the Fischer Random players not competing in Rapid and Blitz. So a new field will be joining, including Grishuk and Nepomniachtchi.
And just as we said that our technical issue stopped, I think Zoom had a hiccup. Anna, you went cyborg mode, but you're used to that. Yeah, but I don't know if that's me or you, or I just God.
All right. Oh, I love being a cyborg. So can we, those of you who have my cyborg emotes, can we please spam that in the chat just for that sound effect? I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to do a quick crop so that we have games. We actually do already have a first move. Hikaru at the bottom has played his first move, and I will get a game cropped in a second here for us. Who should we put on the big screen? Oh, well, of course. Let's be very, very serious about this. Garry Kasparov and Magnus Carlsen. At the bottom left, you see Hikaru versus Levon Aronian. Garry hasn't moved yet? Is that what I'm seeing?
He hasn't moved yet, but we can start discussing. Oh, he has just pushed d4 when we said he hasn't moved. Okay, all right. No seconds spent on that move. So yes, this is once again the new starting positions. The bishops are not in the corner anymore. The knights and rooks are on their traditional squares. Interesting how those are on both flanks on the original squares. Yeah, the king is not, but castling is possible.
I'm just highlighting the 3 pieces which are actually on their not on their. Oh wait, no. I'm wow. I am on something, Anna Rudolf. The queen is on its home square. The queen is on its home square. The queen is on its home square, and yes. I'm taking an early trip to Amsterdam, I suppose, is the best way that I can phrase that sentence. The king and the bishop are not.
The king and the bishop not, but almost, if they could swap places. The rook, the knight, the queen, and also on the other flank, the knight and the rook are on the same spots, indeed. So almost, Levy, you almost got it right.
If Garry Kasparov plays the move bishop d3 here, I'm going to be so happy, because that's what I taught Cutie Cinderella, and if he goes for the stonewall setup here, I will be so excited. With f4. with pawn f4 as well. Oh,
maybe not that much of following the footsteps of Cutie Cinderella. Once again, we are very proud of her, and it was very similar the setup that Kasparov played, the way Cutie was handling the PogChamps games. That's the reference for. And Levy, you did an amazing job coaching.
thank you, thank you.
Also, guys, everyone can become Levy's student if you guys look up his YouTube channel with amazing instructive content. The 10-minute opening videos have been referenced by so many PogChamps participants, even those who are not Levy's students, who were not training with Levy. They just learned the openings from Levy's videos. So there you go. You want to learn openings? Go to Levy's YouTube channel. Speaking of YouTube channels, more GM Hikaru.
Wait, no. You're not supposed to say that yet. I was in the process of getting that on the screen. Yeah. Speaking of which,
you were in the process. Okay.
If you love Hikaru and you want a second YouTube channel, oh my god, they're gonna beat us if we don't say this. More GM Hikaru on YouTube. Go sub.
Exactly. More GM Hikaru. 2 YouTube channels now. More GM Hikaru. Go ahead and subscribe. There's already the first video uploaded from last night. The 3-team sub battle between Hikaru, Levy, and myself.
Yes. Please go, or we'll get in a lot of trouble. Okay.
Please do it. We want to keep our jobs.
Yes, we want to. Okay, here we go. Amazing. Everything looks good. We have eval bars on both boards. My CPU usage is at 81%. We're good. We are good. Come on, desktop. Be good. You'll be all right.
You can do it, Levy. You can do it. So what do you think of this opening by Garry, pushing the pawn in front of the king? This is now king on c1, but it could castle queenside, meaning that you need to vacate the b1 and the d1 squares, and the rook from a1 will magically appear on d1 as if it was castle queenside. I don't think you want to castle queenside if you push your c-pawn, but imagine if he gets to castle kingside, meaning that his king from c1 will fly over to g1.
I don't think it's that outlandish of a suggestion. I mean, he can play like g3, bishop g2, bishop, some sort of movement. Wow, a6 is a really weird move. I think Magnus is kind of just looking at this and saying, well, this is just a QGD. I mean, it's a Queen's Gambit declined. And I can play a6 because I can take on c4. And if you take, I will play b5. And I will just, play in the very similar style. Or, I don't know, he's completely winging it. There's absolutely zero meta here. And Garry just knight c3, Queen's Gambit style.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do think that if Kasparov gets to castle kingside, then this will all make sense with the c5 opening up. And also for Magnus, I do think he should be aiming for the castle option on the king side and not keep it on the c file.
We won't have to wait much longer. Oh, I don't know, 17 minutes. We don't know. Magnus could take a very long time to decide what he's doing in the opening. He does take on c4, which is interesting. Is he gonna go? What is he gonna go? I was about to ask if he's gonna go c5. Oh my god, and are we gonna get dc5, queen d1? Come on!
Please, no. No, we want blood. This cannot be a solid game. No.
No. I don't want some Queen's Gambit decline queenless middle game. Gentlemen, what are you doing?
Exactly.
I'm gonna be so frustrated. I'll go on another break. I'll do it. If he takes on c5, I'm going on... I mean... You know what the worst part is? I think it's the best move.
Possibly. So let's not go on a break just yet. So d takes c5, that will be a queen trade on d1. No castling if king takes d1. In a very symmetrical position. A bit too solid for my taste. Let's tune in with the rest of the boards as well, while Kasparov decides whether to go for the queen trade or not.
Yeah, you tell me where to go. I'll keep it here for now, but if one position looks interesting, then...
Sure, I'm opening other boards as well. I'm looking at Hikaru's game with the potential trade on d5-2. Seems like those central pawn pushes are happening in the other games as well. The d and c pawns, e pawn here in case of Hikaru against Aronian.
So we're getting some Sicilians, a very early queen move. You know what I think these players are going for? They're going for positions which look similar to positions that they already have some familiarity with.
Yeah.
Guys, stop telling me what Ceci says. It's chess 960. Like, come on. I don't care what it says. Okay, sorry. Rant over.
It's okay, Levy. It's all right. We do love Sassy, but we should be focusing on the games. And you guys can open on the other boards too, the ones we are not looking at, if you go to the link that I have pasted in the chat, so you can access all 5 games at the same time. Go back and forth. If we are not on the game that you want to be watching, please go ahead and check the current positions. We're gonna keep our main board. Well, we're gonna be switching on the main board and keep the small board. So I'm confusing our technical terms here. But in terms of the decision of Kasparov, I'm just speaking at it for a moment. He did not take on c5. So Levy, I think we are staying. No breaks. No, wait. We're still thinking. Shoot. I thought we survived the burst.
He's
Okay.
still thinking.
Back to the rest.
Still thinking.
Please don't take.
He's still thinking. Let's look at what Hikaru's up to.
Sure. Yes, that looks more exciting. At least this pawn structure is not symmetrical. There's no queen trade coming after g3. He's aiming to develop the bishop on g2, normal phi and cat2. This starting position of Fischer random actually is a lot closer to the traditional initial starting position. So in just a few moves, it could be happening that we get to a traditional position. And he plays bishop h3 instead of bishop g2 to win a tempo. So he gave up his e4 pawn temporarily and will be possibly winning it back after a move like queen to e2 if he wants to take on e4 soon. Or are there any tactics with that long diagonal pin? Not yet.
I'm trying to figure out if he wants to take on c6, because here's the thing, like, you take on c6, your bishop is open to the knight, which is pinning the rook, the knight to the rook on h8. You've always got this idea to win back the pawn, but you have to do it in the right way. Wow, he plays knight 4 back to b3.
I would not have guessed that move, but it does serve for the purpose of opening up the diagonal of the c3 bishop to pin the knight on f6. He is threatening to take on e4.
Yes, now knight takes e4 is a very serious threat. Although the degree of seriousness could be debated. There could be some tricks actually where black can take and maybe even take on f2 and start doing damage. So, okay. Anything happening? No. Oh, wow. Kasparov is still thinking, Anna.
I wonder what is it that he's considering for this long, because the game will still continue even if he decides to take on c5. Yes, it's a very solid position, but the game continues, so he shouldn't take this long.
You already know Garry's sitting there like, come on, man. I wanted to win. What are you doing to me, dude? Like...
I'm really curious if he will end up taking on c5 or not, and how long he will be thinking, making this decision.
I feel for Garry, you know, because Garry has a very intriguing day today. He starts out against Alireza, and then oh, Magnus doesn't take the queen.
Interesting. So Garry Kasparov decides to take the pawn on c5 after quite a lengthy period of thinking, and Magnus immediately trades on c5 instead of including queen takes d1. All right, that does give the option to Garry to either take on d8 or move the queen away. But where are you going with the queen?
I don't know. I mean, if Garry's so steadfastly trying to avoid queen takes d8, he probably plays queen c2 or queen e2. I would consider queen c2, and, well, I mean, long castles is just far too dangerous.
True. He could try queen c2 with that c file pin, and then, as Levi said, if castle queenside, okay, he takes and then plays bishop d3 immediately. He wants to perhaps aim for knight e4 and then knight takes, bishop takes. Also, black was about to push b5, so that bishop on c4 was in that tempo for black.
And I just want to point out that this is very unlucky. That the one game that we get, remember, this is the one game. They are not playing again. This is the game. And we get a queen trade move 7 or 8. And completely symmetrical position.
I mean, yes, we expected something a bit more exciting than this, but Kasparov has castled, so once again, this is Fischer random. The king was on c1, and magically the rook appears on d1. But yeah, let's come back to this game a bit later in case it heats up.
It heats up, yeah, in case it heats up.
I mean, it might happen. It's rapid. It's Fischer random. Maybe. Let's hope.
Yeah, I think they are more interested in oh, okay, Garry actually castles queenside, by the way. That is a queenside castle. Okay, let's go around. Let's look at Mr. Alireza Firouzja versus Peter Svidler. Oh, this is already very interesting. H5 from Peter Svidler. That is exciting.
It is.
F4.
So he played h5 and then followed up with d6, g6.
Interesting. Did not expect to see that. But he doesn't even play h4, which is so... Is his idea to put something on h6 and then g4?
Could be that he's aiming for bishop h6 to put pressure on the f4 pawn. I think it might be happening now. After bishop f2, it's logical to attack that pawn. I realize in Fischer random it's so much easier to blunder a pawn in the opening, because especially if the starting position is way stranger than the usual one, those flank pawns that can be hanging on move 1 or 2, and now after bishop h6, this f4 pawn doesn't have the usual support. The bishop would normally be on c1, and you can just push the d pawn to protect it. So after bishop f2, white will possibly need to go bishop e3, or white is forced to take on e5 if he doesn't do that.
Yes, exactly. And question is, where is white? White always has this bishop h3 with check. Normally we say don't put the bishop on h3 because there's a bishop on c8. That bishop is going to take you. But that's not the case right now, because we are playing Fischer random. And should we just remind everybody what that is?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, I feel like people who are going to tune in here are like, yo, I mean, when Hikaru solves puzzles, I already thought it was confusing. This is something even beyond that. I have the basics here. So chess 960, Fischer random, chess 9LX is a format of chess where the first row of pawns is the same, or maybe not. Maybe the identity of some of the pawns is different and they're rotated, but the back row of pieces changes every game with a few rules. Your bishops have to be on dark and light squares still, and your king, wherever it is, has to be between the rooks. Not directly between the rooks, but it has to be, you know, if it can be very distant, but as long as the king is between the rooks in some capacity. I don't know why folks are yelling at me about tours, considering this is literally a giant written list of the rules for those that might have the stream muted. So
bishop h6 did happen in the game of Peter Svidler, so we are waiting for Firouzja to take a decision how to protect the pawn, or whether to take on e5. e5 is always hanging, as we have learned it.
Not in this case. It's well protected in this case. And for, you know, everybody very anxiously saying that I didn't show the position for 20 seconds, the move on the board played was bishop h6. Bishop went from f8 to h6. It does attack the f4 pawn. And as you said, Anna, I think we will get bishop e3. Anna Rudolf, ladies and gentlemen, predicting the moves of the players. Should have been invited to play. It's a shame they didn't invite.
Oh, sure, I should have been invited. Very difficult to predict the move when there aren't too many options. Hikaru's position is becoming interesting when it comes to what's going on the e file. That knight was pinned on e4, so he protects his queen with rook e1. But I still think that black is just fine here. Hikaru hasn't castled yet. He could still castle queenside, so that rook from a1 can magically appear on d1.
I was drawing a pretty arrow to show that the e3 square is the only square that doesn't have a piece on it. So somebody should get on that real quick. Put that and make a giant barrier along the e file, though it's actually easier said than done. Do we like this? For who do we like this for? Do we like this for anybody?
I think black is doing fine here, but maybe it's just optical that that queen on e5. I do like the pin over the e file, even if now after rook e1 there's no f5 winning a piece anymore. But I do think that black's position is comfortable. Hikaru still needs to castle, bring that rook to d1. What can black do to use this one tempo?
And by the way, he can do that because his king is already out of the castling zone. So if his king was on its home square, you cannot castle in this position because the rook would cut you off. But here, you actually can play rook a1 to d1, and that would be long castle. I believe so. I believe so.
Exactly. He has to go for that move. That's the one way in which white can activate the a1 rook. In traditional chess, this position for Hikaru would be a disaster because the rook is out of the game and the king on c1 is not doing well. But because it's Fischer random, he can still castle queenside by placing the rook on d1, keeping the king on c1.
Yeah, I think the option of having the long castles here is definitely definitely strong.
Exactly. Definitely. I'm gonna check in with the rest of the games as well. Kasparov versus Carlsen, of course, is the main clash of the round, but it did see an early queen trade, unfortunately. And now knights have been traded on e4 after bishop b6. This is again solid, but will we just start seeing Magnus aiming for more than a draw? I mean, he's all right in this position and he can start expanding by pushing f5, perhaps in the right moment.
Exactly. f5 he can consider, and f5 is inconvenient for Garry because he has to decide where to put his knight. Why is Garry rated 2632? Oh, that's probably his rapid rating. His FIDE rapid rating.
Yeah, that could be. Although I thought that the current rapid rating of Magnus is 2881. So I'm not sure exactly what ratings are shown.
Oh.
Is there a separate Fischer random?
No,
the classical, right?
No,
the classical,
It's URS. St. Louis uses some sort of international rating system.
Okay, no, that explains, because Garry Kasparov, he retired with the rating of over 2,800. So he would be the number 3 player by rating in this field. Therefore, this 2632, exactly, Levy, you are right. It's the St. Louis rating.
Yeah, the universal rating system, and it's supposed to account for every single time control, including hyper bullet and 10-second chess. No, just kidding. I cannot imagine Garry trying to...
Hyper bullet. I mean, I could imagine Garry being really good at bullet as well. Maybe he does have some anonymous accounts and plays bullet in his free time. I could picture that.
No, my friends, this is a live game. We are watching the 2020 Champions Showdown. The Champions Showdown, I don't know how many years it's been running, but it's been an annual event put on by the St. Louis Chess Club, which is the most well-funded and kind of the destination no, I was going to say New York. Look, New Yorkers trying to take credit for everything in the United States to organize top-level events, primarily funded by Rex Singfield, and they But on this event and many, many others, they oftentimes allow grandmasters and titled players who are not as well known to play in round-robin events to get GM norms, IM norms, rating points, fame, etc.
Exactly. The chess club in St. Louis is doing an amazing job promoting chess in all different levels. And this is the first time that the Champions Showdown is online. Obviously, this has been an over-the-board tournament for years, but this year is different. It's a challenging year, so they moved their event online. Bishop a5 is the last move of Magnus, offering this trade of dark squared bishops. What do we think of this? If bishop takes, knight takes, I do feel like this position is still a little inconvenient for Kasparov.
It strikes me as, I mean, more or less equal, but I feel like Garry made a very committal pawn move, this g4 move, and in the end game, every pawn that you've moved up 2 squares, it's not going back unless you're playing a Vladimir Kramnik Alpha Zero new type of chess where pawns can go backwards.
Exactly.
But yeah, this is not going to work.
Yeah, and one thing that definitely Magnus has in mind is that whether the trade happens if white takes on a5 or black takes on c3 and such, but bishop g6 is another appealing move here for black to threaten rook takes d3 and undermine the protection of the e4 knight.
I think Hikaru did castle queenside, by the way, in his game.
Nice. He had to. I'm happy that he has gone for it. That's the way to bring the rook into the game.
And now he plays queen e3, and he's just got a very direct attack here on the pawn on a7. And, okay, Levon Aronian has blundered. I was going to say, I don't know why the engine is saying that this is equal. The engine wanted bishop c6?
Okay.
Oh.
Apparently that was a better move than b6. I'm not sure of b6. Well, the pawn on a7 was hanging, so he just decided to protect it with b6. Levi, what did you discover? Tell us about it.
Nothing. I was going to say it looks very difficult because every piece Hikaru has is poised to attack Levon Aronian. In traditional sense, Levon, you look at the position, you go, he's got the bishop pair, he's better. You sure about that? Like, really gonna try to tell me this bishop on e8, which has never moved in 20 moves, is that good? And the bishop on e7? So,
Yeah.
I like his position, but what is he doing next is the question.
Very good question.
Oh, me.
I do like the knights in the center. Hikaru has both of his knights nicely placed in the center. Knight jumps are available. The pawn on g5 is hanging. The bishop on g2 on that long diagonal that has just been weakened by b6. Looking great. Suddenly, this position should be better for Hikaru. He was perhaps a little uncomfortable before he managed to castle, but within a few moves, he's turning the tables. This is now a good chance for Hikaru.
Those of you asking whether or not he can take the free juicer on g5, if Levon takes, then you take, and everything is good. Everything's good. I think. I think that's great. Actually, if Levon takes and you take with the queen, I think you're just winning because of how active your pieces are. But Levon Aronian does not have to take. And we actually have a few more moves. We have knight d4 instead, and bishop a4 hitting the rook. Bishop comes back. Now Hikaru's thinking again.
He's thinking again, and possibly is thinking whether there's anything concrete. We don't really want to go for the capture of the pawn on g5 because the c3 pawn will also be hanging at the end of the line.
Takes. Now results in queen c3. Yeah, very natural move, I have to say. King b2 is the most straightforward solution to this problem. Defend the pawns.
Yep, and that means that the pawn is now officially hanging on g5. How can black deal with it? h6 seems to be natural. f6 would weaken the e6 pawn, so I don't think that's recommendable at all.
Well, at this point, the machine is trying to say that black is okay if black plays h6, which he did not play. So
G4 instead of H6. Interesting, but it does make the pawn structure on the king side for black worse. That pawn is fixed on G4 and the rest of the pawns are still far away on F7 and H7. I don't think this is really good for Aronian unless he can catch up with a move like F5 in the right moment. But lots of weak squares in black's camp. What's the right way for Hikaru to continue? Now
the
that's
right
not
way
so simple.
for Hikaru to continue is obviously the move knight back to d2.
All right, yeah, obvious.
Yes, and how could you not come to that conclusion on your own? And totally by not looking at Stockfish 11 at the top right.
Yeah.
It's
Well, now that you told me, we can figure out why it's good. Because you do want to create a queen bishop battery on the long diagonal and place that queen on A8 with
Yes.
potential mating ideas. I like it.
That is the one thing about looking at the engine, is that the engine in hindsight will be like, well, you're so stupid, how could you not have played this move? You've done commentary with Daniel King. Hopefully I can nail the impression by the end of the show.
Yes. That was very much like Mr. King.
I think Anna has the right idea. You want to bring the queen up to where the knight currently is and go into the corner and do some damage. But what is happening? Any excitement? No excitement, Garry Kasparov. I'm going to go for the buffet. Caruana MVL also looks very solid. The world champion versus Lenier Dominguez is very solid. Firouzja versus Svidler is the only game with like some tension, but actually they're both about to castle queenside. This is going to be, maybe we have 5 draws this round, which would be so sad.
Well, what a start we had. We had 5 decisive results in round 1. So maybe also, well, the starting position wasn't as awkward, so to say, in round 2. It was closer to the traditional starting position. And then we're going to see more fire in round 3. I don't know. But I still believe that there will be a player or two that manages to score. I don't think we're going to see 5 draws.
Oh, and Hikaru did play knight d2, by the way.
Nice. So he's aiming for queen e4.
Nice idea. Very, very nice idea.
Well, maybe then the person that will score
is Hikaru.
Sorry. His position is very promising.
I was about to say queen e4, bishop c6, but you take with the knight and you win the game. So yeah, he does play knight d2, which was the main way to put pressure on your opponent. Queen e4 and queen a8 is a very nice idea. It's actually unstoppable. If the queen gets to e4, it's no longer a matter of stopping it. It's more a matter of, I know this is coming and I have to adapt. Like a tropical storm.
It is. And another issue for black in that sense is that the piece that was still due to be activated is the rook on h8. But if you move that rook and then queen e4 will not only be heading toward the queen side, queen a8, but it will also attack the h7 pawn. So can black even activate that rook now, or will he have to go for something else? F5 feels like it shouldn't be the move, but it would guard the e4 square.
Yes, f5 does guard e4, but then you start looking at the x-ray that the queen has on the knight, the bishop at the end, and white can play moves like rook e1 and maybe even f4, because while there is an peasant, you take with the knight and you're pressuring this guy, and there's some weak things to deal with, so we'll see what Levon comes up with. Garry is getting Magnused, Anna. Garry is getting Magnused.
Is he?
Well, he's not
switching back.
Worse, but he's down nearly 3 times the amount of time, and the eval is slowly slipping more and more to Magnus's side.
Yes, this was already an unpleasant position earlier. Slowly but surely, Magnus Carlsen has been improving his pieces, the position of his pieces. But now it's getting maybe also more concrete if the bishop sneaks into the position. Bishop f3 I see being the suggestion of Stockfish, and I think that's actually kind of a human move too, because you prevent the option of white of bringing that rook to d1. The f pawn is being blocked, so you're restricting the mobility of white's pieces even further. No knight e2s either.
Bishop f3 looks incredibly annoying, and if rook... I guess you can play bishop f3 and like knight e5, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, that would be, I think, a likely maneuver that Magnus is looking at.
Yeah, that's looking okay. And every time I look away, the Hikaru game is potentially the most exciting. What happened here? Did Hikaru just miss mate? Guys.
What?
Guys, relax. Relax. Guys, really, you really thought that this move was like mate or something? Chat. Chat members, dearly beloved members of the GM Hikaru community, stop it. Come on.
Well, almost made, but Hikaru does not give the check on a8 because queen b8 would still be a good defense for black. So he retreats the queen to e2, trying to get into the position through the a6 square.
But I am curious, what... He did this deliberately? Like, he wanted Levon to play f5 and bishop f6 to weaken his e6 pawn? Is that his big idea?
Maybe, because he also could have gotten this position by going to e2 instantly instead of provoking f5. That's what Lev is saying. So would this be better with or without the pawn on f5? In the other position, it would be pawn on f7. Depends on the follow-up. Does he have a good follow-up here to try to undermine that e6 pawn? How do you get to the e6 pawn?
Again, this f4 idea is interesting, because the point is that you need the knight out of the way. If Levon Aronian forgets that en passant is a rule, oh, I messed it up, it's en peasant. Then it works. Unfortunately, I don't think that Levon Aronian will miss that. Still, f4 looks to be some sort of idea here.
Mm-hmm. Could be an idea. f4 forces g takes f3, and after knight takes f3, at least we try to get rid of that knight on e5. That is the best piece of black. That's the most active piece of Levon Aronian.
Hikaru is thinking.
They're both down to 7 minutes, 7.5 for Levon Aronian. I'm taking a look at the Kasparov Carlsen game against. That is the clash of the round, of course. Former world champion versus current world champion. They played their last official game against each other in 2004. So a solid 16 years ago. A lot has happened since.
Yeah, a lot. This is like if your favorite, your top two in the discussion for GOAT status played like the most lukewarm one-on-one match, you know. But it really lost its excitement early on. But the truth is that Magnus is doing what Magnus does. He is playing fast. He's playing surgical positional chess, and he's trying to create something in a position which is supposed to be equal, but it's not dead. I think actually Magnus himself said that. He's like, I like, you know, positions where it's equal, but there's play, and you have to play.
Yeah, he is known for being able to squeeze water out of stone, and Kasparov has to be playing very precisely here in order to defend this position. So from a solid start, and we were yawning a little bit at that queen trade in the opening, we now have a position where Magnus has the upper hand and Kasparov is on the verge of losing, because this position has suddenly become very concrete. If black gets to take on c2, then the knight on e4 is in the air, so you cannot allow that. He goes back to g3, but all the black pieces are very active, and there's just something wrong with the setup already for white. There are potential pins and forks. Will we see what's the right move here? Is it rook c8? Is it taking on c2? Is it taking on f4? There's so many captures that needs to be calculated.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my mouse. I kept drawing that the knight would go to c3. It's knight takes bishop, and I think the very simple thing here to do is that if you take with the rook, I take the pawn. And if I take and take, and Anna just said rook f8, I'm pinning this pawn to the rook and applying pressure with this, and it's happening. And if Garry plays f5 in that position with his king up, the bishop check is going to be the problem. So you cannot push, because take, rook sack. Rook takes rook, and at the end of that whole variation, you will have this problem of the bishop checking your king and whatever ends up on f5. So Anna, you are right. I think... Wait, but what about rook e2?
Rook e2 does get out of the f file, and if rook takes f4, rook takes e5. E5 is always hanging. Yeah, might be the best attempt for white.
And then if rook f4, maybe what's going to happen is he'll activate his king, and his rook will be on this very active square on f4 and can do some stuff. And
exactly.
Like yesterday, I was talking to an e5 actually happens to be hanging once again.
Always hanging.
Fedor and I
you were
yesterday.
Saying that yesterday you were talking
to Fedor about overextended pawns and to be careful about pushing them. And actually, Garry's g pawn thrust early to g5 might cause more harm than good. It might just be a weak pawn at some point.
True, very true that will be a target. White wishes that pawn would be on g3 instead of g5. And the bishop on c6 is dominating the position over this g3 knight. When there are pawns on both flanks, usually the bishops are stronger, especially in open positions, because of the long range feature of the bishop. It's capable of attacking and defending on both flanks, while the knight is way slower. Garry tries knight to e2 to protect the pawn on f4, but this once again is a very passive position for white. He's not threatening anything, so Magnus simply improves the king's position.
Exactly. The knight is not threatening a check. And what is the plan here for Magnus? What is the plan for Magnus? Pushing and then bringing the king looks kind of nice. Looks good. Let's see. Show me the money, Magnus Carlsen. Where are these endgame skills? What's the move here? Bishop b5?
You can try to capture the knight to then win the f4 pawn.
Bishop b5, but then I'm curious why he had to play king e6. Because knight c3 and knight d5 with the king on e7 would have been a fork. Aha! Aha, Magnus Carlsen. I see you. I'm gonna go for this to win this pawn. And he has. There it is.
Yep. It's on the board, and there's no way of defending the pawn. If king e3 instead of rook f3, bishop takes e2 would have still won the pawn on f4. So Garry goes for rook to f3. But now, again, the same problem. Black will take on e2, then capture the pawn on f4. I believe with the pawn with the... Well, I would take with the pawn and then king f5, because you're not assuming that after rook takes f4, white would be so gracious to capture the rook on f4. You don't want to trade with pawn down.
Yeah, that's a great point. You take with the rook, and if your logic there is rook takes, pawn takes, that endgame is winning for me, you're right. But that does not mean you play the move. Because whoever said I have to take your rook? So I'd move my rook like to h3 or b3. So
yeah, better not to play hope chess, but take on f4 with the pawn. And after king f5, the issue that once again, as Levy pointed out, the g5 pawn is too far advanced, and it will be a big target. Already a pawn up for black, and better king position, more weaknesses to target. This is a very promising endgame for Magnus, close to winning in a few moves, basically. I'm also looking at Hikaru's position, and it's promising because that there now has been some excess created toward the e6 pawn, maybe the king as well. What is the king doing on e7? Oh my, there's so much is happening.
Levon played b5 on move 25 and just gave Hikaru the pawn.
Interesting.
And then
I'm
played
not sure
a5.
why.
And I don't.
I'm not sure why those moves were played by Levon and Runyon, but good for Hikaru because that means that he is now a pawn up. The black king is still just trying to dance there in the middle of the board, protecting the e6 weakness. Yeah, it's close to being an endgame officially, but king security with the queens on the board is still an issue.
Yes, it is. That king on f6 looking a little bit suspicious, but I gotta tell you, this king on c2, you know, the second you move this knight, that is a weakness now. And bishop b4, bishop d4. It's going to be some sort of threat with the queen and the bishop both hitting the c3 pawn.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there'd be a lot of hoopla for nothing. Whoa, Magnus. Sorry, that is not who I just put up on the big screen. Fabiano Caruana has mate on the board.
Oh, does he? Let me tune in.
Well, Anna, in fairness, it's in 12, and he missed it. So a terrible blunder by Fabiano Caruana.
He still has a piece up though, so obviously Levy with the irony that this is a completely winning position for Fabiano Caruana. Two of the participants of the candidates tournament here facing each other in Fischer Random. A good game by Fabiano, and this should be resignation by the #1 French player Maxime in this moment.
And what went wrong was that we had a very balanced position. And I think around here I popped in and I said, okay, this is very equal, but there are some chances. And Fabiano played queen g6 with pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Sacrificing, oh no, not sacrificing, and then, wait, this is crazy. What happened? Queen e4, and MVL played queen takes g2? And blundered, oh wait, he just blundered a piece. So he gave the pawn on g2, and b4 hits the bishop.
Mm-hmm.
And if the bishop were to move back to f8, there is rook e8, and it's devastating. And if the bishop goes like to a7, rook e7, and checkmate.
Beautiful.
Checkmate with a different colored arrow. He just missed that. Wow. Ouch. That hurts to miss.
Yes, very, very nicely played. The pawn sacrificed to then execute his b4 push, and the bishop had nowhere to go because of the rook e7, queen b7 mate that Levy has just showed. So Bashir ended up sacrificing the bishop, but basically this is game over.
It is game over, actually. Yeah, MVL resigned. Wow, Fabi, not too much, by the way, has happened between Garry and Magnus. It's Magnus thinking of the cleanest conversion. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, Magnus blundered rook e3.
Oh.
Or I mean, I don't know, maybe he sees something, but wait,
yeah, because if rook e3, bishop takes e2, rook takes e5, e5 is always hanging, and that intermediate move wins the pawn on e5, so even after dropping f4, it will be material equality. What is rook f7 about? Rook e3, played by Garry Kasparov, and now rook takes e5, e5 is always hanging.
I'm so confused. Magnus had a chance to get this exact endgame, but with just pawn up, and now he's gonna get this exact endgame with not a pawn up.
With not a pawn up.
So rook e5 check, everybody there, is an in-between move, which maybe, I don't know, I never know what's missed and what's not missed, but you don't take the bishop, you leave it hanging because you hit the king first, then you take, and now Magnus is better, because his rook is more active and this pawn is garbage, frankly. The pawn should be back here, but we're gonna do our very best to support this pawn. Wait, are we? Rook g4? Isn't the pawn dead?
The pawn is pretty dead. Is he believing in activating the rook now with rook d2 and trying to get into black's position? But after rook d2, black can just play king e6 or king c6 and hold on to the d7 square, guarding the d7 square.
Little bit peculiar decision. Saw a question, saw a potential bait in the chat there. Is being a pawn up better than not being a pawn up? That depends. Depends whether you're a capitalist, socialist, what your viewpoint is on life, you know. If you're up too many pawns, maybe you give some back to your opponent.
Maybe. I'm not sure. Garry had his chance here now to to survive, perhaps king e3 doesn't seem to be the most accurate, but it's easy for us to judge when we have the help of the evaluation bar. After rook g4, I'm not sure what will he come up with. It's that pawn on g5 is lost.
That pawn on g5 is lost, but at least the rook endgame should be holdable as a strong statement, but it should be more easily holdable, in my opinion, than if the pawn had taken on f4 and then he went king e6 to f5. That would have been...
Yeah.
That would have been
that
the way
would
to
have
go.
been a Wavers version of the rook endgame. So I'm taking a look at Hikaru's position too, in case there's some progress. Oh, opposite colored bishops.
Yeah, that is always the issue. You look at the bishops; they're on opposite colors, and black has enough activity here to create annoying counterplay. And so Hikaru just trying to open up Levon's king a little bit, but queen g1 threatening queen c1 is too strong.
Yeah, that's the issue with opposite colored bishops. The f3 bishop cannot do anything about the attack on the dark squares. So this should be holdable for Aronian, because it might be the case that Hikaru will need to offer a queen trade, and a pawn up in an opposite colored bishop endgame is usually not enough to convert it into a full point.
And people are saying that Garry blundered because after rook c7 attacking both pawns, Magnus should obviously chat, save which of these two pawns? Go! How's the chat endgame skill? Are we saving b7 or h7? Who's saved? Who are we saving? Tell me right now. There's a delay. It's going to take like 5 seconds for the chat energy. E5! Yes, of course! E7! That's somebody wrote that, I think. I don't even know why I said that.
H7 mentioned by a lot of you, and well done. Because if you play rook h5, protect the h7 pawn, you're also attacking h2, but Magnus decides that the b7 pawn is more important to him.
Oh no. Oh no. And at this point, if you're looking at this with the supercomputer, it's going to tell you what they're doing right and wrong. It's going to be like, ha! Stupid, and then it's going to take a puff of its cigar. But the supercomputer knows the future, and unfortunately the players don't. Otherwise they wouldn't play chess, they would play the lottery. This is apparently worse. Why is this worse? Because a pawn remains? Is that, like if Magnus had won the h pawn, a pawn would have remained on the board? Why?
Well, my human logic was just saying that if he had played rook h5 and then rook takes h2, he already would have had two connected passed pawns on the king side, while in this case, he still doesn't have a passed pawn. But it should still be good for him, I would say, if rook b4. h4 steps into rook b4.
What is happening? Garry just gave him the second pawn. What? Well, the question was, how would you even defend it? I mean, you can't really defend it. If you play rook h4... Oh, I don't know, Anna. They don't... We're paid, but probably not enough to give an endgame masterclass. I wouldn't dare give a rook endgame masterclass. But, yeah, Magnus is just going for the second pawn. And what is Garry gonna do here?
Yeah, apparently instead of h4, the move that Stockfish liked a lot was king to f4, so that even if you drop the pawn on a4 with rook b4, at least the white king will be very active. King g5, and then you try to take the g6 pawn with the king.
Garry had to walk to g5 and then go h4, and the rook maintains view on b7, because if Magnus wins the a pawn but loses the b pawn, white is okay. But if Magnus is able to win the a pawn and keep the... And what, did Magnus just blunder right back?
Rook b4 did happen, and then...
Wait, he played king f7 and now h5. And take, and you have rook h7.
Yes. And the moment you take on a4, rook b5 will grab the b7 pawn, and that's a theoretical draw position.
Amazing.
All right.
Amazing. You get two world champions. Get two world champions putting on an endgame masterclass here, ladies and gentlemen. This is good. This is good stuff. Thank you very much. Oh man, Anna, I'm so scared because I'm going to make a recap video of today. And if I criticize either of these players too much, do you know how many angry people are going to write in the comments? Well, Levy, if you're so strong,
I know.
I have to be so nice. I'm gonna have to be so
Exactly.
nice.
But in all fairness, those were questionable decisions. Both world champions, former and current world champion, made a few inaccurate moves. Of course, they are playing amazing chess, and this is a treat for us to be witnessing after 16 years of no games between these two, no official event because Garry retired just a year after he faced Magnus, 13-year-old Magnus Carlsen. They are back at a game, an official event of chess game, Fischer random, but an official event playing against each other. It might end in a draw, but that's a great result for Garry because for most of this game, he was on the defensive. He was in a worse position, if not lost position before.
Yeah, wow, I'm still kind of shocked by these developments. This, of course, is an endgame. We see another rook endgame in Wesley Solenier Dominguez. Rook and 2 versus rook and 2. By the way, we have R2, R2 in R2. Amazing. I have to find a way to keep myself entertained because this is just like Anna. We put so many super GMs on the screen, they all find a way to get a rook in game. How do they do this?
I don't know. Firouzja still has a queen as well. So the two rooks are on the board, but queens added.
And a blunder as we arrive. Peter Svidler. Ooh, both of them have less than 40 seconds, Anna. Let's stay here. Let's stay here for a bit.
This is exciting indeed. What's the correct move here for white is not that simple, but rook c3 by Firouzja seems to be a strong move. A lot of these pawns and pieces are under attack. White cannot really take on f5 twice because the d5 pawn was vulnerable too. How do you improve white's position? The e4 pawn is now hanging.
Uh-oh. Well, e5's also hanging. Draw agreed. The most exciting draw of all time. From checkmate in 22 or whatever. Were people saying it was mate in 22? Is that actually what the engine eval was? Was it M22?
Was it?
I think because the machine just sees that the endgame is winning and just... Wow, it was M22!
For Magnus.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Oh my.
Not
Oh my.
I mean, yeah,
But
that's
even,
crazy.
of course, even if he didn't see mate in 22, because I mean, mate in 22 might be missed sometimes by world champions. But the main question is when he played rook f7, he forgot about rook e3. So that moment was critical in the game between Kasparov and Carlson, because Magnus could have just taken on e2 and take the pawn on f4 and have a pawn up rook endgame, much better version of the rook endgame than what he got in the game.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up that exact moment. Sorry, I scrolled down there. But there was a moment on move.
Yeah, let me try to figure out the move number to help you.
42.
Got it first.
42. King d7 apparently was the winning move. And the point being that if rook takes g6, you stay patient, you take the h4 pawn because I cannot defend this, and the king is now close enough to defend the b7 pawn.
Wow.
And it's over because you just cannot defend both. Rook and 2 versus rook and 0 is going to be winning most of the time. So
yeah. And the earlier decision we were talking about was a move 31. After rook f3, Magnus could have just taken on e2 and then captured the pawn on f4, which was clearly his idea, but he decided to include rook f7 first, which allowed rook e3.
Yeah, I don't know. He must have looked at this and he didn't like that Garry can create some sort of counterplay. But yeah, that was definitely not the way to go. Hikaru and Levon have a very long-winded draw. It's bishop and 2 versus bishop and 1. But because they are on opposite colors, winning this is... Well, there are some very limited chances, but it looks like a draw here as well.
Yes, should be a draw because the white bishop will be guarding all the light squares that are needed to be guarded. As for the other game, still with potential excitement, Firouzja versus Svidler. What is going on? Black has activated his pieces to quite an extent since we last looked at this. Now I think Peter Svidler has a good chance to push for a win.
Yeah, what happened? Okay, so we looked here, the center was closed, the queen got locked, and then did the center get broken apart? Yeah, okay. Alireza took a pawn, Svidler took one. Oh no, is Svidler gonna repeat? Queen d4 is draw, I think. They're repeating. The queen d4, take, boom, and now queen d4 would be a draw.
What Svidler is thinking, he may change his mind, and just when I said it, it's too late.
Champ. Not to be confused with the very exciting and almost no draws event, Champs.
Exactly.
Yeah, this one unfortunately not going so well.
Is that official too, that the game ended in a draw, or are we waiting here? Yeah, now it's official after queen d5.
Standing. This is the stuff that we like to see.
Yeah, well, you did predict a lot of draws, but I'm happy to see that one of them was a decisive result. Fabiano Caruana won a very nice game against Maxim Veselagrov with that pawn sacrifice, and the idea of pushing b4 in the right moment, rook e7, and mate on b7 was such a big threat that MVL had to give up the bishop on c5. So Fabiano won very nicely. The game that also ended in a draw but was super exciting is the one between the 13th world champion Garry Kasparov against the current world champion Magnus Carlsen. It started very slow and solid, but then Magnus took the initiative, starting to squeeze water out of stone in that endgame and caused a lot of headaches to Garry. Garry had to play super precisely in critical moments, and even then, it was a couple of blunders or imprecise moves by Magnus that gave the chance back to Garry to be able to hold this endgame.
Yeah, MVL basically just made one really bad blunder and the game was over. It seems like the actual tournament is going to stick to the 90-minute time frame for the round. If they decide that 25-minute breaks are just not the way to go because broadcast is hard to keep interesting for that long, we might start the next game sooner. But for now, let's take a quick break, Anna, and then maybe we'll come back and play some 960 games. Welcome back, everybody. Round 2 in the books. Kind of a peaceful round, and we saw a rather interesting endgame between the former world champion, potential greatest of all time, and the modern day world champion and potential greatest of all time, Anna.
Yeah, it was the clash of the goats, and even though it started out very solid with the queen trade early in the opening, it did become very exciting with Magnus having a really good chance to score the full point with the black pieces against Garry Kasparov. Garry had to defend for a long time in that endgame, rook and minor pieces, then rook endgame, in order to save the game. And it was because of a couple of inaccuracies that actually it ended in a draw. So ups and downs, but overall a very exciting game between two of the goats.
And once again, we do have a very long break between rounds. So I'm going to challenge Anna to a 3-2 game in Fischer Random.
Sure. Can I just ask for a bigger increment? Because I don't have my other mouse here. So I'm using this ergonomic mouse usually for just browsing and such, but I wouldn't play with this. I can't make quick moves with it. I was building a PC earlier and I have my other mouse in a different room.
Sure.
If that's okay. I'm gonna accept 3+2 another day. I'm very slow regardless, so I can lose on time like this too. Whoa. So yeah, we are playing Fischer Random, guys. Meaning that we'll need to look at every single piece. Oh, already opening up the long diagonal. You know what? I can do the same.
I don't like that, so I'm gonna take space like this. I have.
Okay. But Hikaru also said at the unofficial World Championship match between him and Magnus, where I was commentating with Yasser Seiravan, is that he always looks at the castling options at the beginning. So, of course, the pieces and will he want to castle? So I'm trying to think like Hikaru and imagine, will I want to castle queenside? Well, that bishop on h1 looking at my b7 pawn, unlikely. So perhaps I should try to aim for castle kingside, but that takes forever. There's so many pieces in between. Oh, goodness me. This is
Anna,
not...
this is why you get low on time, not because of your mouse.
I'm also trying to explain too many things, right?
Take the full center here. Something like this. Oh man, I'm getting fought. You're in the center of the board.
I need to fight back before you take all the space. Need to fight back.
Seven. All right. I like my structure. I think we're pretty good here.
Yeah, I think you're doing well, but I'm solid.
Solid is good. Somebody was asking, are we done for the day? We most certainly are not.
We are not done, and don't go anywhere because the next round will feature Hikaru Nakamura facing Maxim Vachilagrov, and on another board, Magnus Carlsen versus Fabiano Caruana.
Yeah, there is lore everywhere today. Carlson Caruana played in the World Championship match in 2018, the first chess boom that we experienced. It's not tours. I'm putting it on the screen, all right? So calm down. All right, now it's back to the big board. It's like, we can't see you. It's like chat has object permanence or lack thereof. Because they're like, we don't think that the hosts are in the room as long as we can't see them. So.
Oh, that's nice of you guys. Thank you. You've been missing us for the past 5 seconds. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Svidler Kasparov, I don't know when was the last time they played an extremely high stakes match. But I feel like we've really copied each other here.
Are you... Wait, I said I wanted to castle kingside. You're copying my idea.
I'm just waiting for you to castle so I can castle the other way.
Okay, now that I appreciate. This is gonna be more exciting. Maybe I'm not doing well here in terms of my kingside, but I'm gonna try to attack Levy's king. A5, B5, what's the way to go here? If I play B5, will you take that? Let's see. Let's see. Do you want that pawn?
No, I'm gonna do this.
Oh no! That you also want to sacrifice a pawn. How annoying.
But I think you have to take.
I have to because my bishop has nowhere to go. Oh no, it's getting hot in here. Okay, Anna, don't panic. Calculate. Bishop g7, queen g5, knight g6. I'm surviving. I think, although you can take on f5, the long diagonal. Okay, let's try. Let's try.
Wow.
Looks really suspicious, but I'm gonna try my best to survive. Knight h4. Okay, that's mildly annoying because it opens up the long diagonal and threatens my f5 pawn. I'm gonna get out of this alive. I don't like this, but I'm gonna temporarily close that diagonal for you. And now that you're threatening f5 and all that attack, I gotta take here.
I feel bad. I've been letting you solo run the commentary, which only happened for about half the first round. This does not look good for black, though. This is...
No, it looks terrible. I'm just hoping not to get mated, but...
I had to focus because they put our between round matchups on Unibet, and so...
Really?
No. Yeah, they're like, you know, we should put this on... No, they did not do that.
If I play f5, I think I'm gonna end up losing material there. But it kind of feels like the one way I can save my king. I mean, I can play knight g6 for now, but shoot, this is looking terrible. No, this is bad. This is really bad. I think it's curtains in a few moves, but I tried to survive. I tried.
That's like half the game. Yeah, I guess short castle was too dangerous. Well, actually, no. Maybe b5 was too dangerous.
Yeah, I didn't have time for b5. f5 was stronger. And yeah, this is the end because Levi is threatening queen g7 and knight h6 checkmate. So I need to take the knight, but that will mean e takes f5. My knight is hanging. If I move the knight, rook g1, and I get checkmated. So basically, I'm losing a piece. Will I give up? Not just yet. I'm gonna push this pawn.
That could be confusing enough.
I hope so. I hope so. Okay. Is there any immediate threats? Well, taking on f7 and all that. Ugh. Oh, looking so bad. Looking so bad. I'm gonna have to take this.
Do I have this? Why do all chess players just groan and feel like and sound like they're in physical pain for the majority of the game? Is our game really that brutal?
I guess so. Since I'm a piece, then I'm definitely in pain. I'm in pain. But I will not resign immediately. I will make a few more moves and make it pretty for Levi for the final position.
Oh. I mean, I also could just lose the game. That also is. It's not outside the realm of possibility. Let's just be let's be super solid.
Achievement. It would be quite
Correct.
an achievement.
That's what I say. I'm like, it's more impressive for white to like lose a game from this position than for black to potentially save it. So,
yeah, I don't think I have any tricks even. I'm just gonna move the queen here.
That might be a trick.
Where are you going? Oh, you just want to take. Makes sense. Okay, I'm gonna resign next move because my knight is also hanging on c6.
No matter what I play, you'll resign?
Well, I'm gonna see if you take the knight.
Uh-huh. Like queen g6 resigning is suspicious.
You can still mouse slip, of course.
Maybe. There's some ways to screw this up.
But there's so many winning moves, even if you don't take the knight. Knight takes g6 has to be... Whoa, wait. No, knight takes g6, I still have queen h6 check. Maybe it's not every move is winning, but every second move. Wait, are you going for it? Is it that... Okay, well, the knight on c6 will still be hanging. So it doesn't matter that much, unfortunately, for me. I can take this, but the knight on c6 is dropping.
That's why bishops in the corner is good. That's chess 960. Bishop in the corner was really strong.
My king and queen on the g file, looking promising.
Yeah, let's go here. I think we have time for like 5 more of these games, by the way.
Do we?
Yeah, I would imagine. Okay. I don't know. I feel like
after f5, if we go back to that moment, let's be educational too. I think after f5, your attack is very strong. I don't think I can get out of it. Because g takes, bishop h6, everything comes with a tempo, and knight h4 was really strong. That position is super, super annoying. Probably lost already.
Yeah, to put pressure, hit this, and I mean, I think b4 is always too slow. I think pushing f4 was...
Yeah, I shouldn't have pushed b5. But then, how do I prevent f5? I can play f5 too.
Yeah, you f5, knight g5. Maybe f6 is the only way.
Yeah, something solid. I didn't think that f5 was gonna be that devastating. I expected that move, but I didn't think it was crushing. And after f5, I don't think I have a good defense.
We can.
There was another line I was calculating after. Where was it? Instead of knight g6, of course, I wish I could play f5, but I think there are multiple refutations to it, including just taking on f5. Okay, the move order probably matters, but I was thinking that you will give a check on g5, take on f5, and at the very end of the line, there will be always a bishop takes c6 that deflects my queen from d7, and you win the piece on f5, at least, I thought.
Wow.
Because if I could have played f5, then maybe my king is surviving, but I just I just didn't think this is working because of the bishop on h1.
A long combination. That is wow. Wow. Yeah, that is true. Queen g5. I mean, it's also, even if Queen g5 doesn't work, probably there is always something here with so many pieces on an open king.
Yeah, very suspicious position, but that's just the main reason why I didn't play f5 as my
Maybe
survival
f6.
attempt.
F6 again.
Oh, f6 instead of f5. Huh.
Something like that. I mean, it seems
Maybe.
highly unpleasant with the bishop in the corner.
Yeah, no, definitely. f5 was very well played, and then knight h4. Another game, or shall we wait it out? The drawing of the position is in 6 minutes, and games start in about 9 minutes.
We can, if we play fast, we can do it.
Okay, let's try.
I think I sent you a rematch.
Let me see. Oh, yeah. Will it be the same position? No, a different one. Okay. All right. The rook is on the same square on h1 and the knight on g1 and the bishop on f1. So king side looks the same, but the king is on d1. Will I want to castle? The question that Hikaru said one should ask. And what about any hanging pieces or such? I'm gonna play a very awkward random first move, b4.
Very awkward random first move.
Yeah.
It doesn't look awkward or random.
Well,
okay.
I guess I'm outruling castle queenside again. But I'm gonna try to develop my king side.
Pretty normal.
Yeah. I can bring my bishop here. My pawn is hanging. Knight to d3, an interesting knight maneuver.
Here. The Queen's Gambit decline setup.
Okay, I like this square on e5 for my knight. I have also knight on g5, knight e5, knight g5. Huh. Can I win something already? Maybe it's a bit too early for that. Maybe it's a bit too early for that, but I'm gonna try.
Maybe.
Oh, but you will castle to defend it. Knight g5, knight d6, knight e5, castle king side.
Oh wow, I didn't even see that.
Shoot, why am I helping you? Why am I helping you? Okay, I'm gonna attack your pawn with this knight first. And then will I simply develop the king side too? You're about to castle. I could just let you do that and try to attack. Huh. We'll see.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna castle anyway, but it doesn't look so good.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's not that good for you. Will I castle or will I start attacking on the king's side? Oh, counter fork attack on f2. So I may have to castle to protect f2 because I was looking at the pawn push g4 earlier. Okay, I don't think I can keep my king on d1 as much as I hoped I could.
About this?
Okay, I only have one square. Am I getting... Ooh, my knight is getting trapped? Shoot! I did not see this coming. If knight g4, h5 traps the knight. And if I take on e4, now d takes e4 and two of my knights are hanging. Levy, I did not see this coming.
I'm really good at stupid pawn moves.
Is there a way out of this, or can I go for some tricks at least? What is going on?
Chat is having a debate about the legitimacy of the players and anti-cheating rules. My friends,
What?
every one of these players upholds the highest standard of anti-cheating protocol, has absolutely zero intention to cheat in this tournament.
Yeah.
I don't know, I can't speak for the top 10, top 20 of other games, but in chess it is career-ending and it's devastating, because let me tell you, being a chess professional, you have to play games. You cannot be spectating them. None of these players want to sacrifice any of that or their legacy, so...
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I see. Oh, Chad is asking if I'm cheating. Oh, yeah, I'm cheating. Of course I'm cheating.
No,
I'm
I
not a
just
GM.
blundered my piece. It's okay. It's okay,
Anna,
guys.
it's okay. It's okay.
Not the end of the world.
They had to find out someday. So today's the day they're finding out.
I'm playing bad, but it's all right. It's for the spectacle. We are here to entertain you guys in between rounds.
Yes. I don't remember the last time I was accused of cheating.
I do
you know
remember.
you've made it as a...
I do remember.
Well, Anna Rudolf and cheating is an interesting... It always leads to an interesting...
Oh yeah, Engine in the Lipstick. Lovely story.
How much do you have to talk about that story, like, on stream?
All the time, and it happened 12 years ago. 12 years.
So someone brought it up. I don't really like. I don't like to revisit completely ridiculous stories like that.
Yeah.
But somebody.
I laugh at it obviously, but back then it didn't feel funny at all that someone would think that I am capable of cheating.
Oh, that's annoying.
Trying to activate my pieces. I'm a piece down, so my only shot is to try to create threats. Now this c7 pawn is my target. Quite a desperate attack, but I'm trying, guys. I'm trying. Oh no, I got Matter is totally fine for making that video. He asked for the game from me, so I was aware that he's making a video. But yes, the video has maybe over 2 million views by now, so I guess that's where most people learn the story from. Because the video is not that old. The video was published a few years ago, and the story is from 2007. But yeah, no, kudos to Agat Mator for all the content that he creates on his channel. And I gave him the game. He asked for it. And I don't mind that he made a video out of it. It's just an objective way of explaining what happened. So that's totally fine. What's not fine is that when people... Shoot, I didn't see that. What's not fun is when people just hear parts of the story and assume that it was actually real. So... like, dude, educate yourself first. Read everything that was out there about the story, because
wow, really?
I'm not the one who was then a court case and who was about to be banned. I'm not that one, but the 3 people who accuse me. So maybe people should educate themselves first and read about the story before they start going asking really silly questions.
Wait. So people read like an excerpt of it and somehow thought that using a computer engine in Lipstick was like a legitimate claim?
Yeah. No, a lot of people think it's legitimate by reading 2 lines about the story, which I don't think is fair.
Oh, I just, I don't even think I knew you when I read it originally, but I was like, I think, yeah, there was some article. I'm reading it like, my first instinct was, wow, those dudes are really stupid. like, I was reading it like, yo, what? Yeah. I know some of these people, like, in the... Yeah, I don't know. It's,
well, luckily, that's the opinion of the majority of people, and the majority of people read about the full story and don't just go accusing me out of the blue without knowing anything. But there's a very loud minority that just likes to come to live streams or my YouTube comment section and bring that up as if it was a fact. The fact is I was accused of cheating, and the 3 people who accused me were in a FIDE case at the ethics commission for what they did to me. That is the fact.
Wow, that's crazy. I think I knew the extent of it, but yeah, I mean, for me it was Anna. I'd like to offer a draw.
I'm totally lost, so I'm gonna resign.
Oh, okay. All right, respectable. All right, let me just put away my lipstick here. Yeah, I mean that's
I
such
should
a crazy
apply
story.
more layers of lipstick. I should apply more layers.
Guys, we do have games, so I'm going to hide the bracket. We have Hikaru MVL at the bottom left of the screen. If I need to fix these names to be slightly more legible, I'm happy to do that. Professional editor, by the way.
Professional. And just to recap the pairings for this round, by the way, Levy, great games in Fisher Random. I'm going to train for tomorrow for the next Fisher Random games between you and me. But we now have round 3, the last round of today. And it's yet another thriller. We're going to have Hikaru facing Maxim Veselagrov and Magnus Carlsen versus Fabiano Caruana, one of the main clashes of the round, if not the biggest clash. Kasparov, by the way, is facing an old rival of his, Peter Svidler.
Yeah, Peter Svidler, indeed. I don't know the exact stat. Do we know the exact stat of how many times they have played against each other?
You mean Svidler and Kasparov?
Yes.
I don't know, but I would imagine a lot of times. Same goes to Carlson and Caruana, of course.
Right.
Which one shall we start with? I see you brought up Carlson and Caruana. And the starting position. The starting position is always unique, as you guys know, 960 different starting positions. We have seen bishops in the corner already. That's usually good for the bishops. Castle, kingside, queenside. Yeah, I like this one. The knights are in their original spots, and the bishop on h1 is good. I think this is a pretty good starting position from my very, very low knowledge of Fischer random chess.
I'm just going to pull up the overall standings. That is what I'm. That's my current project.
Yeah.
Because we do have the solo matches per round, but at the same time we also should take a look at the entire cross table. And it's quite massive. Obviously, the players have to play a lot of games, but I'm gonna try to get this on the screen for you guys, and it looks good.
We already have Castle Kingside played by Magnus Carlsen here on move 5. So once again, the position after castling will be the exact same as in traditional chess, but it's funny how you do it. If you're trying to play Fischer Random online, you will have to move the king over the rook. So king from d1, put it on top of the rook on f1, and then the computer will execute the Castle Kingside move.
Hopefully this works. It ain't so pretty, but it gets the job done.
Yeah, nicely done, Levy. Good job.
Thank you. I made this whole thing. It was not Nathan F314. And
so wait, you didn't just beat me 2-0 in our break Fischer Random match, but you also created this. Totally. Yeah, totally legit.
Of course. I mean, that's my job. I have to manage production. So let's see what's going on in terms of matchups for this round. So just the overall, we know that it's Magnus Fabi, we know that it's Svidler Kasparov, and we know that it's Hikaru MVL, and that leaves 4 people.
We do have Aronian versus Wesley So as well, and Alireza is facing Lanier Dominguez.
Outstanding. That is a lot of very strong players. And
yeah, this field is crazy strong. So luckily every round features some spectacle matchups like Carlsen versus Caruana, and that is after Kasparov versus Carlsen. That was the previous round.
Yes, exactly. Let me just hide this for now so that we keep Hikaru's board at the bottom. Players just have a few minutes to review, and then it is go time. It's probably weird to just jump in there. I would imagine that when you make an entire career out of preparation, that not having time to prepare doesn't feel very good. You know what I mean? Like, if you did well in school by studying a lot, I'm not describing myself, but then if I say we have a test and you have 3 minutes to prepare for it, that kind of sucks. Like, Probably
It
don't feel so
does. What do
good.
you even do for those 3 minutes? Maybe just look at the starting position and what Hikaru said, like, okay, well, will I want to castle? Is it any close to the traditional position?
Exactly. I mean, you know how the pieces go, and this is an interesting one. This is a very flexible and solid setup from Magnus, and well, it is what it is from Fabi. It's some sort of Botvinnik setup, right? C5, D65, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Very similar to the stone balls that you have been teaching in PogChamps. Different squares, but the structure, the shape of the structure. I mean, of course.
Hmm?
Now, in terms of the age 8 bishop, that does mean that now this bishop here will not have a diagonal. But the battery that Magnus had with the c3 bishop and the queen on a1 was concerning for black, so he does prefer to close that diagonal for white's pieces.
This is, again, a situation where one guy has put his pawns 2 squares forward, and there is some benefit to being the guy who's only moved his pawns 1 square. Because if you play something like e3 and try to play for d4, you're suddenly cracking at your opponent's position here.
Yes.
You have a chance to break it apart.
I wonder how different is the approach of the other players, because every round there's a new starting position drawn, but every game in that same round features the same starting position. So you get to see the same Fischer random position played in 5 different games. And the approach is very different to how they go about their first moves, which pawns they push, will they castle, how do they develop the pieces, and they all start from the same starting position. So I'm looking at the rest of the games and seeing which one is the craziest. Maybe Dominguez versus Firouzja I find the craziest because Firouzja played both G5 and B5 as his starting moves.
No. That Alireza did that.
Alireza, yes. Didn't I say that?
I thought you said Dominguez. I'm sorry. I was like, Dominguez played G5, B5?
No, maybe I confused, but I meant the game between Dominguez and Firouzja, indeed.
Okay, because I was like, yo, Linier Dominguez played G5, B5? Or
No.
Dominguez played
Yeah,
D4,
I probably
E3.
missed. I might have mixed it up, but I am thinking of this position as quite a surprising one, a surprising approach by Alireza to push both the G and B pawns, opening up the long diagonals for the bishop and the queen on A8, but not taking care of the center. So will he be punished for this? Is there a way to even punish this setup?
I know, and it's funny because the engine right away is already saying +1, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, it's +2. It's +2, +3. Sorry. +1, not +2. I meant to say it's move 2. How on earth can you have an evaluation of +1 on the second move of the game? Computer, relax. Relax.
+1 is definitely too much.
A4!
Immediately questioning what's going to happen to this B5 pawn.
Oh my god. Amazing. A4. Yeah, this is the difficulty. You push this B pawn, now you have to account for it. Huh.
And he can't play A6 to protect the pawn because there's a pin on the A file. A takes B5 would win the pawn. It's funny how the queens are not protected. Usually that would be a rook square.
Yep, takes, queen takes. And I'm not sure what Alireza does, by the way, I have to tell you.
I'm not sure either, because if you take on A4, queen takes A4, white is happy to have that A file open and the A7 pawn will be vulnerable. If you push B4, then the bishop is capturing that pawn for free. Normally you would be able to push it, but now there's a bishop on E1, so forget about B4. C6 is a way to protect it, but it does weaken the king. Oh, C6 would be an immediate disaster. You can take on B5 and then bishop A5 check. It's resignation.
Wow.
Oh, well, or check immediately. You don't even have to take. Yeah, exactly. Bishop A5.
Yeah, that would be something. I don't believe it's going to happen. Just predicting potentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, wow.
The linear Dominguez doing very well. He won his first game and he drew in round 2, didn't he? Yeah, exactly. So he's leading. He's one of the leaders of the tournament, and he has a very promising position after only 3 moves.
Yeah, very peculiar from Alireza here to play just b5 g5. Like I don't. Is it tilt? And how many points does Alireza have? Half, right? He drew last game.
Yeah, he did. He lost in game 1 against Kasparov. Then he drew in round 2. And now this is looking suspicious of he's taking his time because there's no obvious response. Maybe he has to go for b takes a4 after all. Positionally, not a good move for black, but it's the least bad option at this stage.
And it helps you activate the queen, although right away you may not want to do it because d6 comes with tempo on your queen. Then again, I don't know. We basically just have to wait for a move here from Alireza. Whoa, what is the what? Hold on. There's every piece is gone in the Hikaru game.
What?
Yeah, let's flip this around real quick. What happened? So we got b3. Okay, actually MVL played kind of similar. Okay, castle's kingside by Hikaru, castle's kingside from MVL. And you have like a solid structure, your queen and bishop look down this way, and why is... What happened to MVL's position? Oh, he just instigated on the queen side with a move b4. And wait, did he just blunder? He played e4 and blundered a pawn?
It does look like he blundered that Hikaru can take on e4, then on f3, and win the piece back on d2. So this is a pawn up for Hikaru, and that extra pawn is a pass pawn that's about to be pushed to c3. What a promising game for Hikaru. There's really not that much that can go wrong here. You'll just need to keep pushing that c pawn, try to get rid of the blockading piece on c2 at some point, the queen.
So strange. And you can also play like bishop d4 and lock it in with e5. And then put the pawn on c3, rook b8. Whoops, rook b8, rook b2. So strange to just blunder e4. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big mistake by Maxime, not seeing the hanging bishop on d2 at the end of the line. But this means that Hikaru has a great chance to score a full point in this game. This will be his first win if he does win this. He started with a loss, drew in round 2, and is now with a great chance to win and get back to 50%.
Is MVL 0 for 2?
I believe so. Yeah, I didn't put that picture together that he is currently the last in the standings.
He's 0 for 2, and if he loses now, he's 0 for his first 3 games.
Wow, that's not called a good day at the office for MVL for sure.
I mean, MVL also happens to be the only player in this event to join the Botez live channel for a hand and brain session. So I don't know if those two things are correlated, but it's a rough day for MVL at the office, and well, the training regimen must change before the candidates resume. Anna's just like, oh my god, what do I even say after that? I feel like someone just got extremely roasted. I don't even know who I'm roasting, honestly. I think everybody just got a hit there. I'm sorry.
No, a fair point about MVL's day that it's a rough start for the French number 1 in terms of rapids rating. He is the world number 2, rating of 2860, right behind Magnus Carlsen. So this is a rapid event, Fischer random, but rapid time control. In that time control, Maxime Veslegrab is the second best player according to the current rating list. So he definitely did not think he would start with 3 losses in the first day.
My My favorite thing, one of my favorite things that Charles Barkley says when he's on TV is if someone has a 0 performance, like no points, he'll be
Yeah.
like, they got as many points as I got, and I didn't even play. So it's tough to be going up against Hikaru, Carlson, Caruana. Those were his first 3 opponents. So there was no walks in the park, but they're very uncharacteristic mistakes because MVL was number 1 in the world in Blitz, and he was very close to 3,000. He was the only player in the world to ever hit 3,000 in a rating, and he's fallen off since then. But he's also currently leading the candidates tournament, is he not?
Yep. Yeah, he's doing very well there, so maybe that's where his main focus is. And this is for sure random, so I guess we can't compare exactly the rapid ratings in that sense because this is a different chess variant. But even like that, the e4 mistake, by that stage, the position was very normal for traditional chess. So it would have been just as much of a blunder in traditional chess too to play e4 in that position.
I could be a mix of a few things. All right, first of all, after 95, it's already kind of unpleasant of a position because if I take the knight, I'm taking on h1, and again the queen and bishop in Fischer Random. If you can open your queen and bishop like this together before your opponent does, you have a very significant advantage from the perspective of just pressure on the opposing flank, because oftentimes the queen will be on the corresponding square, and it won't be nice at all. See what Hikaru can come up with. Maybe we go around. How is Svidler Kasparov? Ooh, very tense. Wow.
I was just taking a look at his camera on the official broadcast, and he was shaking his head, so I was a little concerned. Hikaru. He was shaking his head, but I don't know if it's related to the position or something happened just outside his apartment, because that could be the case too. Maybe the fire alarm went off. It wouldn't be the first time it happens live on air. So who knows? Hopefully it's not the position that is concerning him, because that pawn on c3 is looking very promising.
Yeah, very, very confused. Oh, and let me flip this. Also, apparently MVL just made a losing mistake.
Oh.
Yeah, what? Wait. What? I went to flip the other board, and it's -7. What? Why? Oh, queen c7, rook d8, rook d2. White resigns.
And that's not even a difficult maneuver. So basically, queen c7 attacks the rook, protects the a7 pawn, and then you bring the rook to the open file. Rook d8 or rook b8 would both do the same. But if the white rook is on the queen side on the a or b files, then of course you'll go rook d8, rook d2. Very logical. I'm pretty sure that Hikaru will go for it.
The difference is if you play rook d8 right away, maybe you're concerned about losing the pawn on a7. But even if that were to happen, well, rook d2. Actually, no. There's not even rook a8. What am I even afraid of? There's no. And if e5, you have a few options here, but you can even sacrifice the queen for the bishop on f3, and then the king takes, and then you take the queen on c2 for free, and you have a getaway square for your king always. You're never worried about checks. So this is not good. Well, it's not good for one of the players.
Not good for MVL, who might go 3 defeats on his first day, 0 points out of 3, but great result for Hikaru if he scores this first win. I see the Hikarus are back, so definitely a hype moment for all the fans of Hikaru. Of course, we are here on Hikaru's channel, and this is going to be then 50% for Hikaru, but this is only day 1. 2 more days of Fischer Random will follow, and then Hikaru will also compete in the Rapid and Blitz portion.
Yes, exactly. It's a very long event. The first 3 days are this Chess 960 format. I'm trying to find us a game that is more or less open, but every other game is like within the first 10 moves. Lenier Dominguez and Alireza are still on move 6, by the way.
Yeah. All I know is that when Hikaru joins us, we will definitely need to ask him about the head-shaking moment, what happened there, because he seemed very concerned. Luckily, it's not the position that should be concerning for him. Let's look at those other boards, as you mentioned, Levy. which one could be the most exciting. Is Alireza surviving this position which is still move 6? I can't believe it. He's down to 10 minutes. He made 5 moves, but his position is rather shaky.
He's pushed pawns. That's what he's done. Every piece hasn't had a chance to move yet. I don't know when he will push a pawn. Some say he might never push a pawn. I don't know. He's still shaking his head? That's the scouting report on Hikaru. I mean, hopefully there's no fire. He's like, yo, just put that out. I gotta win this game. Like,
yeah, I don't know what happened there. We'll ask him, but his position is winning. So whatever is going on in California, we'll learn about it when Hikaru joins us after his game. And in the meantime, this position of Alireza is concerning too, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's shaking his head as well. Okay, I'm also looking at the camera again of Hikaru, and he just keeps looking back, like toward the windows, so that it must be something happening just outside his apartment. Some noise, something going on just outside the building, because he keeps looking behind his back toward the windows.
Maybe someone's climbing up like the side of the building to try to knock on his window. I don't know what floor he lives on, but while that got the chat panicked, now they're like, "Oh my god, is it the Russians? What's going on?
Is it Spider-Man?
Did Hikaru not fill out his census, and now the the federal government's trying to climb up and get into his window? What's
Well, I can't wait for Hikaru to join us and tell us about what's going on in California. But in terms of the game against MBL, he's doing absolutely well. He did not protect the a7 pawn, but he did bring the rook to the d5, and that c pawn should decide the game.
Could be Spider-Man also.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a very likely option. Maybe the second most likely after the fire alarm. Magnus Carlsen versus Fabiano Caruana is another hype pairing of the round. Of course, this is the match we all want to see, this matchup as many times they can play. We are there with the popcorn in hand.
I'm not big on this matchup.
You're not?
Nah. It's actually, I'll be honest. Magnus Kasparov, Magnus Hikaru, after the past few months and just in general, Magnus versus Fabiano, it's big, it's exciting, and I would like to see a rematch of the World Championship, but I'm not convinced. I just, as a fan of who can challenge Magnus, I want to see Magnus Nepo more than actually I want to see Magnus Caruana.
Oh, interesting. Hot take by Levy. Not the first one. Oh, I'm just throwing my bottle.
It was so hot, it just knocked things over.
Yeah, it did knock my water bottle. But I am still excited about this pairing. The position is not that exciting, so I'm hoping it will heat up shortly. It's very close, the position, and they both have castle. The position of the pieces is now very natural, so it has turned into traditional chess, almost a normal traditional position.
Kind of like a king's pawn, not a Ruy Lopez, because the bishop is on h1, so you can't really say that the bishop is on b5. But it's a very closed position, very closed. Going to be a lot of maneuvering and not so clear where the best plans are. Meanwhile, Hikaru here taking his time and ends up playing bishop e5. Let me just flip this so we see it on the big board. I gotta keep flipping it.
Sure.
Bishop e5 and not bishop d4. Interesting. I guess he just didn't like queen b8, maybe.
Maybe he did not. Of course, this still has to be really good for Hikaru. And we keep his board on the template. Even when we switch, guys, usually you will have the small board showing Hikaru's position. So don't panic. Don't panic just because we sometimes mention other players too. It's a 10-player round robin, including the current world champion and the former world champion. Hikaru's position is always on screen.
Yeah, I went around to look. The Svidler Kasparov game is looking like in English with c4. Again, the bishop on h1 has not moved. And it's just solid. I mean, actually, if anybody's defending this position, it's Garry. Garry has half the time that Peter has. Half. 13 to, well, 13 and a half to 6.
There's such a difference in comparison to how he played in round 1 against Firouzja, where Kasparov was very fast, and he won convincingly against Alireza after that crucial mistake by Alireza with that pawn push line d4. But now, yeah, what happened? Maybe the previous round against Magnus, that really brutal game where Kasparov was on the verge of losing. He did manage to save the game, but that must have taken quite some energy out of Kasparov. And perhaps he was not that comfortable with the position he got out of this game, because that also makes players think a lot when you are not liking much what's going on the board.
But still in very much Garry fashion, he plays e4. You would expect nothing less. He's trying to create some complications, some sort of fight, take. The knight will jump here. That will open up the bishop. But all these trades are going to change the position for white as well. When you move this pawn to e4, it stops protecting the c pawn. When this knight moves this way and this knight moves this way, the bishops see each other. So Garry is inviting a fist fight.
He is.
Not actually, he's not a keyboard warrior. Peter, you meet me at this location and we can, settle this like men and not over the internet. How are Svidler and Garry in terms of their relationship? Are they like friendly or?
I think they get on well. I think they get on well indeed.
Okay, got it. So he won't be writing him any angry messages. I'd love to see Garry.
Unlikely. And also the story behind the It's Half account on chess.com. I think you heard of the story, Levi,
yes.
But we could mention it again for those of you who were wondering. Hafu, who won PogChamps, couldn't have her user tag on chess.com because someone else already had an account under the name It's Hafu, and it was an active account, so chess.com couldn't just give it to Hafu. She used Hafu Chess for PogChamps, won the event, but during the coaching sessions, we did figure out that It's Hafu was owned by not just a random fan, but the one and only Peter Svidler. He registered under Hafu's tag because he's a huge Hearthstone fan and he's a fan of Hafu. So he decided, yeah, that's a cool name. I can be anonymous on chess.com, use Hafu's tag. And he also gave the account to Garry Kasparov so that he can do Puzzle Rush on chess.com under that account. As Peter said, he never saw the account back because Garry is a beast at tactics and he just kept going in Puzzle Rush.
Yeah, that's a completely insane story. I almost was like, is this even real? And yeah, I mean, I saw Hikaru in the chat. He wrote so bad. Reminds me of when I'm streaming. Hikaru will. I don't know if Hikaru is going to join us for something immediately, because last time, every time that he would win, they would talk to him for like 40 minutes, and we'd have to sit here and entertain everybody. So let's see what happens. I will mark the result. The first result this round, Hikaru winning with the black pieces.
Mm-hmm.
We're good.
We are good. We are hoping that Hikaru will join us soon, but yes, possibly he will also join the official broadcast. Luckily for us, this time there are 10 players, so I don't think they can keep Hikaru for that long.
Yeah, I hope they don't. I hope he does join, talk to us about the games, and then I'm assuming that Hikaru has plans to stream after, and stream, frankly, up until his games tomorrow morning. I mean, who even needs sleep? Just pull the XQC.
Pull the XQC. He is wearing his TSM jersey, so we'll get to see that too when he joins us, but I think he's about to join the official coverage, so we'll be expecting Hikaru after that.
Terrible. They just don't let us hang out with our boy. This is the overall standing, everybody. The score did update, right? Yep, Hikaru at 1.5. He's up top, but let's not forget that that's after 3 rounds. So Magnus, Caruana, and Dominguez, and even Garry have a chance to get 2 or 2.5 points today. It would not be a Super GM tournament without someone already having made a draw in the first 2 rounds. No one is on a perfect score. We're left to see it. That's why these guys are Super GMs, Anna, and we're not. We lose games. They draw them.
Yeah, but in Fisher Random, at least there's no theoretical draw and such in the opening. So we are happy. We are here to see the creativity. Every game is different. They start with a drawn position. So there are 960 possible positions, and they get to draw. Well, someone draws the position that every single player will need to play in that specific round. So 5 games in the same given starting position of Fisher Random, but all the approaches are different. We never see the same setup, the exact same setups.
No, we do not. And for those of you asking, how come they don't randomize every board every round? I mean, I don't know. I just feel like that would lead to chaos. You know, you would see MVL sitting there like, hey, why is their board different? I want that board. Why did I get this board? Give me that board.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
you gotta standardize something, and that's what gets standardized.
Exactly. I think it's better this way. And we get to see so many different approaches to the very same starting positions. So it's educational at the same time, and we can try to draw conclusions. I drew from this round the conclusion that B5 and G5, that combo, even in Fisher Random, may not be good.
Someone says, imagine being Firouzja in a tournament like this. What a moment. I would imagine, yes. But at some point, if Firouzja wants to have success in his career and set all sorts of records and be described as a contender even before the age of like 20 for the world championship, it can't be a moment for him anymore, right? Like it's a moment, but you have to rise up to the occasion, because if you wait too long to have a breakthrough, you can end up in a situation like Wei Yi, for example. I think Hikaru and I talked about this. Wei Yi's been the same rating for like 5 years, which is crazy.
Yes,
like that's
and he was considered a huge chess prodigy. He's still, of course, one of the most talented and promising players of China. But yes, it's true that he was that talented and skillful years ago as well. So we don't see that much of progress in recent years. I agree.
But that's I mean, it's give the kid time, but at the same time, if you're Firouzja, you've got to show up and be like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna surprise everybody. I'm gonna win a few games, because at some point it stops being like, oh, this guy's the prodigy. Let's see how he does. This must be a big moment to, all right, kid, what you got? Like, let's get second. Let's get third. Every single world champion or contender of like the top 5 had that moment. They had a big tournament and it was like, whoa, they just burst out on the scene. You got to win or get second or third place at one of these big tournaments, and then everybody's like, shit.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. I'm just looking at the other positions too. The which other game I haven't checked in with yet. Firouzja is down to 5 minutes, but Dominguez is also approaching that mark, 6.5 minutes for Lanier. Still a better position for White, but there's nothing immediate. So maybe Firouzja will find a way out of this not very appealing position for Black. What other board shall we go to, Levy?
Yeah, it's such a weird game between Dominguez and Alireza. They're gonna have to. I don't know. It's so. Oh, and Hikaru's here.
Oh, amazing. Then we can talk about the Carlsen Karana game later with Hikaru, because I do see the evaluation board liking Fabiano's position now.
So Hikaru, they didn't want to talk with you?
No, they did. It was just very quick. It was a very smooth, lighthearted conversation.
Wait, that's it? It was done?
Yeah, it was like 5 questions.
My God. Okay. I like this format more. I like that they let you come back more fast. They let you come back faster.
I mean, they're just very chill, and they're Americans after all. So they know how to do interviews, in a more like regular way. It isn't convoluted. It's to the point.
Okay, got it. What did they ask you about?
Just about the weather, where I am, and how I felt about my game.
Really? The weather? Oh my God.
Well, I don't think they were aware that I'm on the West Coast, to be fair. So
okay.
There is that, but yeah.
Okay,
we did want to ask you about the games, of course, but can I start with what happened during the last game when you seemed concerned on the webcam, but your position was great, so we were wondering what was going on behind you. You kept looking at the window behind you.
Yeah, there was like some guy mowing the hedges.
Oh,
And so there's a
okay.
lot of noise nonstop. And considering the way the day had gone, I wasn't really very amused by it, to put it mildly.
Yeah, no, that explains it. That explains it. And thank you for describing what was going on.
Chat
We were
was,
guessing fire alarm or Spider-Man, these two options.
yeah, chat was very, very concerned with what was going on. Your last round opponent, Maxime, what is going on with Maxime?
Well, all I know is that I saw him on 0 out of 2. That's all I knew. Like I didn't see any of the games, honestly, because I was really tilted after the first game. I mean, that was just absurd. So I didn't really see any of Maxime's games, but I did see that he was on 0 out of 2. So I had a feeling something might happen. But you know what I would say is with 960, and I think this is really important to remember, is that my feeling towards 960 is that if you get off to a bad start, let's say you lose a game where you've done something insane, like for example, what I did here, I would say, even going back to the Magnus match against Wesley. So when you do something insane, it's very hard, I think, to stabilize after that, because unlike in regular chess, you can't just go boom, 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 play 20 quick moves and get your anger out. You have to think right away. So you're much more prone to making a blunder on like move 5 or 6. When you're kind of on tilt and in 960 chess specifically, and I don't know what happened in Maxime's second game, but I know he's on 0 out of 2, so probably things just weren't going his way. And then against me, I mean, he just got a bad position right away, it felt like.
Yeah, I think again in his second round game, in the first round it was imbalanced. Magnus went on a big attack. In the second game, he hung a one mover, which actually felt like it happened in your game too. E4, bishop takes e4, and it seemed like it was just downhill. Like,
okay, I mean, I didn't see it, but if it was a one mover, then I totally get why the third game went the way it did, because he 100% had to be on tilt after that.
We can send you a link to the games if you do. You have the link, or just?
I mean, I'm not really interested in looking at chess. I'm pretty disgusted with my performance today, so I'm good. I'm good for now.
Okay.
Then let's talk about your jersey, because this is the first official tournament where you are representing TSM.
Well, I mean, I'm 2 for 2. I've won 2 title Tuesdays, so.
Yes, Anna.
Oh, sorry. Outside
no, I mean, by the way, to
Tuesdays.
be clear, since everybody's putting Sag, it's not like I'm like sad or really upset. I'm just very angry at myself for what happened in the first game, because to sum it up, in the first game, what should have happened is, maybe not what should have happened, but I felt like I was better in the opening. I had like 1 or 2 moves where I missed it, and the game was just a draw. And for whatever reason, I just couldn't bring myself to make a draw. So I just felt this need to keep the game going. And then I got into a worse position, but it still should have been a draw, I think. And then I allowed this insane F4 move, this geometry with the knight against the bishop. And I'm not upset. I'm just angry. Right. Exactly, you guys. But yeah, like, for example, like right around here, when I went bishop b3, first thing I could have gone queen b2.
Mm-hmm. Let me just bring it back. I jumped ahead to the f4 move, but yeah, move 17. Yeah. Queen b2.
I mean, queen b2, queen a1 would have been a draw. I went bishop b3, which is, of course, completely fine. But mainly I just got frustrated because like, Dominguez wasn't trying to play for a win is what it felt like to me. And so I just inevitably started drifting because I refused to take a draw. Like, at this point already, after queen f3, I think I played.
Yeah, queen f3, yep.
And then he played, what, queen d4, right? Or I played this one first, right? And then... yeah, and like here, I should just make the draw. Like, there's literally no way I can win this against a player of Dominguez's caliber. But I just like I just within me I couldn't hit the draw button. I refused to make a draw, and I mean, it was still probably drawn much later even, but I was already in a really bad mood at that point. So you know, it was unfortunate, but I won the last game, so at least it looks kind of decent, I would say.
Yeah, so still 50% with 6 rounds to go. And tomorrow your first game is against, I don't know if you looked at the pairings or do you not look at it? Am I okay? Is it okay if I tell you who's your opponent tomorrow first?
I mean, the way you say it, it has to be 1 or 2 people. I just don't know which one of the 2 it is. That's all.
Correct. Alireza. No, it's the second day starts. No, it's Magnus.
Oh, that's actually a bummer. I was hoping it would be Garry, but I thought that would bring in a lot more hype to start off the day. But anyway, yeah, I mean, obviously we all have to play each other, so it's no surprise. I guess that means I have the white pieces, which objectively should be maybe a small plus perhaps. But in general, I think you know, you just play the game, try to do well, and hopefully I have chances to get some wins and get on the board.
We hope so too, and you will also meet Mr. Kasparov the very same day. So you're starting the day tomorrow with Magnus, and you're finishing the day against Garry Kasparov.
Well, now that's a real bummer too.
Wait, really? Round 6? Round 6 is
Yes, round
oh
6.
man. Okay,
that's
Kasparov,
really a bummer.
Hikaru.
No, I mean I don't mean it like I think I'm going to lose the games, but it's a bummer because I'd rather play them on different days. Like
that's what I was saying. It's more fun that way. You can't just put it all.
Because this means tomorrow, like there are going to be 30,000 people watching. Then on Sunday, they're going to be like 5,000.
Well, yeah. Well, let's see who you're playing on Sunday, just to check the schedule.
Also, I believe that we're gonna have your channel featured on the Twitch front page. So regardless of the pairings, I think the viewership will be really high for those games and also for Sunday. Levi, are you looking at the pairings?
No, I'm not.
I'm joking, by the way, to be clear. I'm joking.
We know.
In general, it's just it would be nice, kind of like it would be nice if I play them on different days, just in general, because I mean it's really fun. I really look forward to playing both of them. But I think mainly what I would say is I better get angry. What's it? Get angry, get mean. What's the dodgeball saying, Levi?
Oh,
get
me?
Mad?
Anna's the dodgeball expert.
There's something it's like you got to get mad or get mean or something. I was just gonna say that I think certainly that applies to when I play Garry, because I felt like when I've played him in general, I've had issues not being competitive or serious, but I've had issues where I've just had too much respect, and within me I feel bad trying to beat him. So I need to find a way to.
That's okay. That. Magnus had maiden 22 on the board and drew Garry, so he probably feels the same of some sort.
Okay.
No, it was actually the strangest game ever. It was like because it was the second round. Your starting position the second round was super like tranquil. It was the same almost with king and bishop flipped.
Well, apparently I was winning on move 5 in my second game, but
really.
Apparently, yeah. I mean, I didn't look to see what it was. But anyway, yeah. I think I think in that second game, I was lucky because I played Lev. And one thing I will say that I really admire about Lev is that when I played him in 960, regardless of the colors, both of us tend to play for very original sort of setups. Very rarely do we end up in these closed positions with symmetrical setups when we played in 960. And again, it was like a Sicilian basically, where maybe I had a move or two I was better in the opening, but it's always very dynamic when I played him, and that's all. I've always loved playing Lev in 960 for that reason, because it's just so different.
We do appreciate the creativity that you are bringing to all these 960 positions, and we can't wait to see what will be on the board against Magnus, against Garry, starting the day tomorrow against Carlson and finishing it against Kasparov. What can we expect as preparation? Will you be streaming now straight away after the games? Will you come back a bit later?
Well, I mean, I think it depends on whether I'm going to go outside this afternoon. It kind of depends on the smoke situation and everything. But I assume I'm probably going to go out and relax and just stream start streaming at like midnight tomorrow, stream until the round, just play Among Us with Train and all the cool kids, and then just play this game of chess probably. You
should invite Garry to an Among Us game. That would be
Right. Well, actually, I think I heard Garry yelling before the first game, actually on stream. So I think I actually heard him yelling. So he probably would be very at home with Among Us.
Oh boy.
We would love to see that, but I think on that note, we will let you take a rest, Hikaru, unless you want to stay for the remaining games of the round.
Well, what's going on here? Garry
is struggling, losing, it seems,
right?
The last two games.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll just hang around for a little bit. What I would say is that with Garry, I think the biggest issue that he's going to have is just the energy level and staying focused throughout the day. Because it's a very different kind of format. I mean, if your games finish early, you have a break, but it's not too long. And I think for Garry, I mean, not to say he's old, but basically it's much harder to keep the same energy levels as the other players. And I mean, I think that's why that's just the nature of chess. I mean, I'll have the same issues soon enough too. So, that's Mother Nature, or whatever you want to call it, basically.
What is Vishy's secret?
well, I mean, Vishy's secret is that he just resigns. and I don't mean that in a negative way, but what Vichy does is he's very good at conserving energy. So like when Vichy gets a bad position, he just resigns. Like he's just like, okay, whatever, doesn't matter. He just resigns when he gets a bad position. But when you look at somebody like Garry, if he were to play over the board, he would not be able to do that because it's not in his personality and it wouldn't be natural. And the same applies to someone like Boris Gelfand, for example. Another guy who's a total fighter. So like the notion of just like getting, when you get a bad position, resigning just won't, it just would never occur to him. And so I think that's the biggest difference is that Vichy, when he gets a bad position, he's just like, okay, well, that's life. You know, I'll just, tomorrow will be better. And he moves on. And I mean, it works for Vichy because then he's able to conserve the energy in a different kind of way. But I think that's just Vichy being very practical and pragmatic in a way that I think someone like Garry or even Boris can't really do.
You described it so well where without seeing his games today, he started very well against Firouzja. Kasparov won in the first round, playing very well and very quick. Well, the game had its ups and downs, but in the critical moment, Kasparov was sharper and won that game. And then against Magnus, he escaped from a very bad end game. So that must have taken a lot of energy out of him in that rook end game where Magnus was basically winning and Kasparov escaped, but it cost him a lot of time and effort to escape from that very bad position.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually kind of wondering, one thing that Garry has done, has not done well, I would say, in the past events he's played is his time usage has always been an issue. I think that's sort of being nervous or being unsure. And I was kind of curious to see how it would be online as opposed to over the board, because Garry in general, I think online is easier. It's easier to kind of just be more relaxed. Like I feel like in person, when like everyone wants an autograph or everyone's trying to snap your picture with someone like Garry, I think the pressure is much greater than it is. So I was kind of curious to see online if he moves quicker and he has more confidence than over the board.
Do you think he still plays sometimes under an anonymous account, or is just a puzzle rush with the Hafu account that is one of his favorite activities?
Gary's always doing something with chess, whether he's playing or doing puzzles. He always has something with chess. I think probably every day. So I don't know if he's actually playing. Probably he did some games of 960 in before this event. I'm betting that he actually played with Peter is my guess. Because I know when we had the 960 matches last September, the person that he was always analyzing with was Peter.
Yeah, could be very likely the two get on very well. But in this game, there's no friendship. Peter Svidler with 2 extra pawns.
Yeah, looking for G4, I guess, is the point here.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical of this G4 idea, honestly. Because then it's probably winning, but it could get tricky unless you get the pawns to E3, D4, and E5. But yeah, I mean, I think Peter is the guy that he probably would. And also to give you guys another reason why I think it'd be fun if Garry played a game like Among Us is because last year it was a similar setup except it was in person, and so Garry was analyzing with Peter, and they gave us the position, and Garry and Peter went off to a board to analyze in St. Louis, and Peter made a mistake. I think he confused a bishop and a knight, and Garry only realized right before the round, and the look that he gave Peter when he realized was shall we say, it was not a happy look. Oh man, it's not a happy look at all.
That's
yeah.
Wow, that's a tragic blunder, especially in chess 960. I mean, it's gotta
definitely. Yeah. Well, we're gonna make that. We need to make that happen.
By the way, I'm gonna predict that this is gonna end in a draw. By the way,
because G4 bishop H4, right?
Well, I'm just worried that all these end games with the 3 pawns in the center, they're gonna be very good practical chances to find some way to salvage this, is my guess. I mean, it's still, I suspect technically it's lost, but it's getting to the point where it feels like they're gonna be chances for black somehow, practical chances.
Every other game is Aronian and Wesley made a draw, and every other game is. The Carlson Caruana game is also interesting, but yeah, let's keep it to Kasparov for now.
Someone's getting smoked. Who's white? Who's white in this game? Someone's getting smoked there.
At the
is Fabiano white or is Magnus white? Wherever there's
Magnus has the white pieces.
Oh Magnus. Yeah, and that's just that looks really bad for black. Although maybe you can go H3, bishop H4, last ditch effort. But I suspect that white can put the bishop on F5 and the knight on E4 and just close the whole box.
Is that a pre-move, by the way? I think we just saw pre-move bishop F5 from Magnus. Wow.
Classy. Yeah, very, very classy. I like it. I actually really like that idea. Now knight e4 is strong here. Knight e4 or king h3 maybe. Maybe king h3 is a little bit safer here, but I think practically white should be winning. Whether white wins or not, we'll see. But I think practically it feels like white's the one who has the clear ideas. Whoa. Oh, is that just working? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Magnus is a world champion, because he just sees that move very quickly, and oh, that's a really nice move. It looks super scary, but now you can go bishop g4, knight e4, and it's game over.
Hmm.
Wow. It's like, yeah, wow, look at the light squared control. It's
wow.
Every single square.
The evaluation bar just jumps straight away after bishop b2.
Yeah, there's something winning here.
Like, by the way, h6 attacks the rook, which is not something you see every day. And
yeah, like h6 looks very good.
Oh my gosh, that is not where you want that bishop. Wow. Looks like Magnus is gonna win. Linier versus. Whoa, Linier's just it's over. Bishop a6. What happened? Alireza just imploded in half a second.
Brutal. Yeah.
He seemed to have some stability, but these Linier. Yeah. I feel like Linier has a very aggravating style to play against. I mean, he's doing quite well. I think he has 2.5 out of 3 today, but his style is like rock solid. And
yeah, I mean that's kind of why like I kind of lost my mind. It's like the position had a lot of interest. There are a lot of possibilities for both of us, and he, instead of trying to make it creative, he just tried to make it very boring and dry. So that was very frustrating to me. But yeah, his style, I think, especially for someone like Alireza, who probably doesn't have the same level of experience, certainly would be very, very frustrating.
I can imagine. I mean, Kasparov like flew out of the gate attacking Alireza, and it seemed like Alireza got a decent position by stabilizing, which is what I would have expected in reverse. For Alireza to come fight, and Kasparov to be like,
right.
No.
By the way, I'm feeling more and more confident in my prediction on Garry's game. I mean, I think white is still winning, but like it's getting to where there are really, really reasonable chances of a blockade. Like really reasonable chances almost. Like king g6 and then king f5. Even 98 maybe also. I don't know.
He's going towards e7 with the king.
Yeah, that's also... Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. The only problem with going this way, I thought, was white can go knight g3, knight f5. Oh, wait. But Levy, if it's bishops opposite colors and the pawns where they are, it's winning, right?
Wait, but I think Garry resigned.
Oh.
It just says 1-0.
Oh, maybe he flagged.
I'm so confused. He just resigned the game. Because he has 16 seconds. He has 16 seconds.
But you gain 10 seconds to move.
Yeah, people are saying that he resigned. He just literally resigned the game, played king f8 and resigned.
Yeah, I mean, very, very tough for Garry. Like I said, this is going to be the biggest issue, I think, over the board or online. It's just that, like, the amount of energy, how focused you have to be for like 4 to 5 hours, it's not easy at all. And chess has become a lot harder as well, I would say. People defend better just all around. You have to beat them. It's like, as Nigel said once, I think, he said something like, you have to really, like, I mean, I know it's not politically correct, but he says, like, you have to drive a stake through the heart, because otherwise they keep coming back to life every time. And I think that applies to, I mean, basically everyone at the top. So yeah.
Yeah, standings after the first day. I don't know if any surprises necessarily, other than just MVL. I mean, for the most part, like there was some game. Maybe Dominguez. I mean, 2.5 out of 3s.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me the 3 biggest surprises are probably Lenier on 2.5, Maxime. I mean, I don't know, like maybe it's very weird to me when I see Maxime or Alireza doing badly, because they have played a lot of online chess just like I have. So I would expect, if anything, they do really well online. So it's very weird to me to see both of them down there. I mean, I think with Alireza, maybe it's just because he doesn't have enough experience yet, and especially with increments versus straight up like blitz. So I think that could be playing a big role in his case. But Maxime, yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's very weird to see. It's just very weird to see. with Maxime, because he seems like a guy who should do really well.
Yeah, he's creative, plays fast. It's definitely. Well, we don't hear a lot from the top GMs. I mean, you know, you stream, Magnus does his stuff, but like, if it's not for the tour, which he actually did, MVL not even play in the last 2 events of the tour, of the MC tour.
Well, he did really poorly, didn't he? I mean, he did really badly, I thought. Yeah, I mean, I feel like he was at the bottom. There was one where he lost that one. The Lindorus one. I thought he did really badly there, and I don't know. Things haven't really come together for him. And it's the same for Alireza. He also played a couple events, but he didn't really do very well in them. So it's just, yeah, it's strange.
What do you see? What do you think of the candidates? Sorry, Levi, I got you there. I was just thinking of MVL as if, do you think he is focusing more on his preparation for the candidates now that the tournament will continue, or it's planned to be continued in November?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly he should be. I think also it's probably a large part of why Jan is. Is Jan playing in the Rapid and Blitz or not?
He is.
He is, okay. So I was saying, I feel like Maxime and Jan, they're probably the 2 favorites. So I mean, they should probably be focusing on their preparations. But again, I mean, the only thing I would say is that certainly if you do badly over and over, it can affect you, certainly. Like for me, when I look back at the candidates that I played in 2016, there was a match I played against Fabiano. It was just like Blitz and Rapid, I think a couple months before the event. But prior, I would say, to that event, I felt like psychologically I had a big advantage over Fabiano. And when I lost that match, it's like, okay, well, it's just Blitz and Rapid. It shouldn't have any effect whatsoever. But it actually psychologically did give Fabiano a lot of confidence after that match going forward. So I think it is worth noting that even if you think, well, it's just 9-6 or it's just Blitz, you know, it doesn't matter. You do have to you do have to kind of, it does kind of affect you sometimes. So you still need to try and stay sharp and not just lose over and over. Because, like, you know, if Maxime loses, you know, like all these games to Fabiano in 960 Rapid and Blitz, then, you know, it's like, oh, well, you brush it off, but it could have a lasting effect.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, not to mention, if we keep having events like this, which are 150,000, you can't either not play or not do well consistently. Because it used to be a thing of the past where you'd have one event in 6 months online, maybe. When's the last time we had so many high stakes events played over the internet? It's not like this.
Never. It's a new dawn. It's a new age. When you know, trust an esport now, Levy. When you gonna sign with an org?
Let me get my Instagram followers up. And on that note, we've been plugging your YouTube, by the way.
YouTube blog.
Yeah.
Well done, Levi, with the segue. Guys, if you haven't noticed, Hikaru has now a second YouTube channel, more GM Hikaru Nakamura. That's the channel you need to follow. And the first video may or may not feature the 3 of us, the 3-team sub battle. And speaking of more GM Hikaru, we'll call it a show for the day. We'll be back tomorrow again at 2 p.m. Eastern, 20 o'clock, 8 p.m. East, 8 p.m. Central, whatever, that time zone. Look, just be here at the same time. It's really not that complicated. Take care. Till tomorrow, guys. Oh my.